Cool Figure TV. Revolutionary salute. Revolutionary salute. Like, share, subscribe. Welcome to the House of Revolution. You know I'm your humble host, the Yao-Ming of Revolution, and we are being deceived, family. We are being deceived. But before we get into this message, be sure to wipe your feet. That means hit the like button. Like, share, subscribe, support the platform, y'all. Well, we definitely have got to look into a bunch of strange and very suspicious activity, a bunch of activity that's going on around the world with these plane crashes. And what's going on with these planes? I don't believe Russia shot that plane down, just like I don't believe the South Korean plane accidentally crashed into a wall, killing 160-some people. Salute, family. So we got to look into those things. Looking more into these drones, these orbs. We've been missing a lot been going on. Let's dig deep.
We are going to be looking at some disturbing videos, strange and odd news stories, and as always, let's go ahead and get right into today's video. In this first disturbing video, I don't know about you, but I was very shocked to learn how many planes had crashed or had issues around the same time. There was the crash of the Azerbaijan Airlines Flight 8243 on Wednesday, which had 62 passengers on board.
Strange thing about this, at first they said birds. They say the reason this plane was brought down is because birds. And then all of a sudden, they said, oh, no, Russia shot it down. And then Putin came out and apologized. Said, oh, yeah, we apologize for shooting. Like, whoa, wait a minute. That's very strange.
29 of whom survived. The plane was headed to Grozny, a city in Russia, but for whatever reason, it diverted and ultimately crashed on the other side of the Caspian Sea. There is some back and forth as to what caused this plane crash, with investigators saying that more than likely it was Russia that accidentally shot down this plane, and Russia is hitting back and saying that no, we had no involvement. It was a combination of bad weather and the plane colliding with a flock of birds. But oddly enough and tragically enough, this was not the only plane crash. There was actually 3 more in less than a week, and I do believe these other 3...
Now, I was just going to brush the one off in Russia. War zone. Maybe Putin thought it was a drone. Maybe they had to shoot it down. It was very fishy until these 180-something people were killed on this plane in South Korea. And the very first thing they said was birds. Very first thing they said, birds caused this plane to veer off the road and, have some engine failure. Whatever happened, they said birds. Now my antennas went up.
Occurred on the same day. Today, a Boeing 737-800 Jeju Air flight carrying 181 people that was arriving from Bangkok, Thailand, had crashed while landing at South Korea's Muwon International Airport. 179 people had lost their lives. Only 2 people survived the crash. These 2 people survived because they were on the tail end of the plane. The plane crashed right into a concrete barrier, just bursting into flames. And they state that a bird strike started the sequence of events that led to the crash. According to South Korean officials, the plane then hit a structure, failed to lower the landing gear, and skid across the runway before crashing into a wall. Then, like I said, it burst into flames. Now, I'm not an investigator, but they are saying that it was this bird strike which caused this Boeing plane to hit a structure, and then it was unable to lower its landing gear, where it ultimately crashed into a wall. But my thing is, how often do birds strike planes? Because from what I understand anyway, while they do not always strike a plane, it happens fairly often. The FAA states there are over 13,000 bird strikes just in the United States alone every year. Yet for whatever reason, this bird strike caused this chain of events which led this Boeing plane unable to lower its landing gear. But this was not the only plane to have issues and skid down the runway. An Air Canada plane caught fire during a crash landing in Nova Scotia on Saturday night. Videos were shared on social media, which had shown passengers aboard the plane as it had skid down the runway at Halifax Stanfield International Airport while its wing was on fire. So this could have been way worse. But fortunately, all 73 passengers were transported safely off the aircraft and only minor injuries were reported. This article I'm reading from Newsweek even states that this incident occurred not long after the passenger plane in South Korea had crashed. An Air Canada spokesperson said that there was a suspected landing gear issue which caused the crash. So it was just like the South Korean plane, which also had a landing gear issue. Now, I know the question you may be asking, is this Air Canada plane also a Boeing plane? And no, it's not. It's a de Havilland Canada-8400, which is not a Boeing aircraft. But there was another plane which also had issues on Saturday and also skid off the runway. An Amsterdam-bound plane skid off the runway after emergency landing in Norway. This plane was another Boeing 737-800, which suffered hydraulic failure mid-air, which caused it to go into an emergency landing. And as it was landing, it veered off the runway during the rollout, coming to a complete stop.
Now, I believe the drone BS that's going on and whatever type of electronic BS that they're doing to deal with these drones, is behind all this shit. And they don't want to tell the people that, because they tell the people that nobody gonna fly, nobody gonna want to have nothing to do with no planes. They lose trillions of dollars. So they're willing to say, oh, it's birds. Even Putin willing to say, oh yeah, we shot it down, knowing he didn't. Yeah, we did it. He don't want to lose trillions of dollars. Yes, world leaders will come together and lie to their citizens.
On soft grass near the taxiway. And this could have been another incident where a lot of lives were lost, but fortunately for all 182 people on board, nobody was injured. Now look, I get it. There are thousands of planes in the air any given day, but I have never heard of 4 commercial airliners having major issues in less than a week, and 3 of them around the same day. In 2 of the planes, unfortunately, there was a major loss of life. But even when it comes to the plane stories where nobody was injured, there is still little room for error. This was definitely a crazy week for aviation, and let's hope that this is the last of it.
I'm not into conspiracy theories. Not very much at all, really. I mean, honestly, I'm not. But isn't it weird that in an age where whenever someone throws McNuggets across the counter at a McDonald's, 20 cell phones are filming it? We're always pulling out our phones for road rage incidents, for accidents, for all sorts of silly things that people upload to the internet. And yet I haven't been able to find a single second of video of Luigi Mangione being arrested at McDonald's. You would think, because the people were chattering there, they were talking about how this guy looked like the Pew Pew guy from New York, right? So they even believe that he heard them talking about him that way. And he was there a long time, apparently. He stuck around, which shocked a lot of people there. And yet no video. Why do you think that is? Comment down below.
Why did I not think of this previously? But this individual on TikTok, Spencer Hughes, he raises an excellent point when it comes to the arrest of Luigi Mangione and the case involving the United Healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson. Why is there no video camera footage of the actual arrest taking place at the McDonald's? Right? Like, think about it for a second. Everything is caught on camera in today's world, whether it is CCTV footage, police body cam footage, or somebody simply taking their cell phone out of their pocket and hitting the record button. We always see video footage of people fighting, people throwing food, people arguing, and even getting arrested inside McDonald's. And yet, when it comes to one of the biggest stories circulating through different forms of media, there is no video footage of his arrest, even though there is very grainy photos coming out of him at the actual McDonald's eating a hash brown. We can do an FOIA request, but sometimes they're not successful. And if they don't want you to see it, they will deny it, and you will be out hundreds of dollars. You had multiple people inside this McDonald's saying that might be the guy, not just the employee who called the police, but you also had people that were sitting down eating, cracking jokes, saying that this might be the guy that took out the United Healthcare CEO. You even have one of these people, like I said, take multiple photos of Luigi Mangione. So you mean to tell me that this person could not record the cops coming in and arresting him where he was sitting? Now, had somebody taken video footage of the arrest, it would answer a lot of questions, because news and media, they came out and said that he had book bags on him with multiple pairs of clothing, including the clothing he wore at the scene of the incident. He had a gun on him. He had a lot of money on him. And he also had the manifesto, a manifesto he had written about his hate for United Healthcare. Even though he had pled not guilty, he had admitted to everything inside this manifesto. Did he go quietly? Did he cause a scene? Did he act like he had no idea what was happening or what was going on? Did he say you have the wrong guy? This whole story is very strange, and it reeks of one big giant psyop, and McDonald's is playing an even stranger role in multiple stories as of 2024. But including this story, we had the suspect leave a book bag filled with Monopoly money, and we know that Monopoly is connected to McDonald's. News and media released a photo of him holding a Happy Meal, and then he ends up getting arrested inside McDonald's of all places. Let us not forget that the arresting officer inside of this McDonald's, his name was Officer Fry. Give me a break. This whole thing smells like one big giant psyop. Then we had somebody release a side-by-side photo of Luigi Mangione wearing very similar clothing to that of Oswald, the individual who supposedly, anyway, took out JFK. For a lot of us, for most of us anyway, we believe that Oswald was nothing more than a patsy, just like Luigi Mangione. We can even connect this to the 2025 Economist magazine cover, which I still have to do a breakdown on. But if you look at the bottom right, you can see a red raised fist. And a red fist usually means a political movement or a solidarity. There are a lot of people that are behind Luigi Mangione. They see him as a symbol. They see him as a symbol of this movement against the rich, against CEOs. And the powers that be, they are banking for copycats, civil unrest, so they can go ahead and step in. Isn't it just funny? These Economist magazine covers happen to, quote unquote, predict a lot of future events. If you have been subscribed to me for quite some time now, you will know that I have connected the dots between a lot of events in 2024 and the Economist magazine cover, which was released in 2023, the World Ahead 2024 Economist magazine cover. But this is not prophecy. The so-called powers that be, the so-called elite, they know what's coming. This is why they show us ahead of time, because they are the designers of these events. All of these strange events, all of these strange news stories that make no sense whatsoever are all there for a purpose, for a reason. All roads lead to the global governance, the 2030 agenda. The United Nations and the World Economic Forum met in September to fast-track the process of the 2030 agenda. Dr. Sherry Tenpenny made an amazing video breaking down the Pact of the Future document, a document created by the World Economic Forum and the United Nations, pretty much outlining what we will be seeing in this 2030 agenda.
Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, and I want to do a quick update about a document that got passed by the United Nations this weekend called the Pact of the Future document. It's two parts, one on science and technology and one about the youth and future generations. It is quite egregious, and it was done by a procedure called the silence procedure, which makes it a pact. And if no one objected, it is automatically adopted and put into the record as being completely adopted. This is the World Health Organization's runaround, or end around. Since they were not able to get the World Health Organization treaty passed, they decided to take it to the General Assembly. And it is even more egregious than what the World Health Organization was wanting to get passed. Let me just read you something really quickly about what is inside of this pact that is now being accepted by 193 nations around the world and equally open-armed accepted by our current administration. Everyone, it says that this is the power structure, fully digital and maximized for the control of the masses. Everyone will be expected to have a biometric digital ID that marks them not just as citizens of an individual country, but as a global citizen. So anytime you hear global citizen or anytime you hear sustainability, think that this is an egregious thing that's happening at the level of the World Health Organization and the United Nations. Anyone that has a dissonant opinion will be labeled as misinformation, disinformation, or malinformation and memory hold. Perpetrators for unapproved information will be fact-checked and punished by the system, which will be operated and enforced by artificial intelligence. Punishments will include being locked out of one's bank account, being unable to make certain purchases, unable to get on an airplane, on a subway, drive on public roads. This is the future, according to the world's self-appointed overlords at the United Nations. These are unelected bureaucrats that are making decisions about our country, our sovereignty around the world. Nothing could be more important at this point in time than to get prepared, have water, food, digital access, flashlights, a way to communicate with family and friends. Now is really the time to get involved and get prepared.
Revolutionary salute to our family. Django ATX, he say keep smashing, but look into these three subjects. All the inmate beatings and deaths in Harris County, takeoff, shooting, cover up, and Jay-Z and Dilla, no doubt about it. Family, we're going to look into all of that and keep smashing. I appreciate the donation to the war chest. Revolution is a way of life. Salute, family.
Because this is what's coming. Our Congress is sitting on its hands. There was a press conference on the 17th about this, and no further action has been taken. So it's up to us to mobilize and to go forward, particularly with your local sheriffs, to get your constitutional sheriffs to say, this isn't going to be allowed in my county. Thank you very much. Take action. We've been talking about the onset of one world order, one world government, one world religion, one world money for a long time. Well, it's no longer coming. It's here.
Why do you think almost all these locations around the world, almost every county, almost every state within the United States, almost every country around the world has these long-range transportation plans for 2030, 2040, 2045, and 2050? They know, and when I say they, I'm talking about the so-called powers that be. They know something big is coming that's going to put pretty much every location around the world under these smart cities, under one policy, under one rule, under one law.
And the last factor I want to mention is resilience, the capability to bounce back, because there will be certainly what we call the black swans, the unpleasant surprises which will come in our way.
In this next disturbing video, more and more people are noticing this very unusual fog, this fog that is appearing during certain unusual hours. And not only that, this fog is also carrying a very horrible smell, a smell of chemicals. Now, in my last video, I had stated that people mainly on the eastern side of the United States and also people located in California are noticing this unusual fog. But now it seems like people in multiple locations around the world are also noticing this fog.
Can someone explain to me why in Manchester we've had nothing but fog for 4 days now, 4 days in a row? Normally, just behind these buildings, I can see for miles out of my window, but I haven't been able to see past these buildings here, barely seeing this main road since the 23rd of December. It's now the 27th. And I know what fog is, and I've seen fog before, but I don't think ever in my life I have seen fog like this, like a blanket covering for 4 days in a row. And it's not even like it's disappeared and then come back. It's literally just been like this constantly since the 23rd of December. Is it just me, or is that not normal? I mean, if it wasn't for the lights there and the headlights, I probably wouldn't be able to see that road at all. Earlier on today, genuinely couldn't see a thing. I literally feel like I live in a Stephen King film. But yeah, it's pretty weird. Has anyone else ever seen this before? Has anyone else ever seen 4 days, even longer, of fog continuously? Get it in the comments. But yeah, I've never seen this before. What is going on?
People, what the actual is going on with the sky? 4 days. 4 days straight it's been like that. Now the mainstream might have an explanation for what they're saying this actually is. Anyone who thinks this is actually normal is beyond help, delusional, burying their head in the sand, doesn't want to accept that we're actually being exterminated here. That's pure poison, chemicals, strontium, barium, aluminium, graphene oxide, pathogens. This is what they think about you. They do not give a. They're doing anything they can to take away your health, take away your power, take away your freedom, and have you on your knees begging for a solution to the problem that's been created by the people that are doing this. This is what they think of you. They hate you. They don't want you on the earth. They want you gone. And this is how they do it. And this is just one of the ways that they're doing it. You can't have a new world order unless you destroy the world first. And that's what we're witnessing, the complete destruction of the Western world.
These next two videos from Devil Dog 1 and Moon Henry will talk about the fog even here in the United States.
Hey, TikTok, I got a question. Is it me or is something going on with this air? It was just clear out here. Now we got all this crazy fog and it smell like gas. Man, people got these coughs that they can't get rid of, headaches, you know, all types of little stuff going on with their respiratory. No such thing as a cold no more. You know, like, let me know if this is happening where you live at. Check it out. Just don't look right.
This right here is not rain and it's not sleet, and I'm about to prove it to you in a second. I don't know about y'all, but I'm sick of this. So this is their Ring doorbell or whatever, and at the same time, there is quite literally no precipitation coming from the sky. It's just water molecules. Somewhat. Same exact place, except it was taken on a camera and not the Ring doorbell. I'm about to show you stills as well. But guess what? This is happening everywhere. And I mean everywhere. Here's the still picture. And all the way across the world, this is in South Carolina, and it's looked like this for months outside. And when I say months, I mean every single day. It's this right here. So much to the point where I'm literally taking vitamin D every day. Now, I have no idea what this is, but do you notice the similarities? The fog, why is it completely outrageous? And again, right here, with crazy spiritual phenomenon happening in the sky, why is it always present with fog? Right there's the video. We have seen the sun here once a week, if that. And I've been talking about that quite a bit. I mean, look at right here. Yeah, once in a while, I get that. But every single day for months straight in the UK, they're grounding flights and doing all sorts of caution over this fog. So it's not just, where we are, but where they are as well. By the way, in the video I showed you, I see a skull in the fog. Surely me and them can't be the only people, right? Let me know what it looks like outside where y'all are. If you're watching this on Facebook, put a picture in the comments. I miss the sun, and I mean the OG sun.
I have been noticing that a lot of this fog has been appearing in locations where, again, there were a lot of drone sightings, including the United Kingdom, where multiple unidentified drones were seen over Air Force bases in the United Kingdom. So is there a correlation between the drones and a lot of this fog? Talking about drones, I don't know if this is a drone or not, but this also appeared in another foggy area, and people were saying how they noticed that whatever this flying object happened to be, it was spraying something.
What in the world is going on?
In this next disturbing video, something strange was seen flying around Donald Trump and Kid Rock. Take a look at this.
Look, it's Trump and Kid Rock
The
in the
footage
fight.
shows
What
a
is that
dark
black
object zipping across the screen.
entity flying around them? What is that?
Temple Franco notes that the object doesn't resemble a bird and seems too solid to be a shadow, describing its outline as weirdly distinct.
Yeah, we are in an evil good war, everyone. Put your armor
The brief
of
yet
God
puzzling
on.
appearance has sparked widespread speculation, with guesses ranging from a technical glitch to something far more mysterious.
Yeah, very weird.
While we're on the topic of
Some people are saying that it's a bird, it's a bat. What's even more bizarre is that if you slow the video footage down and zoom in, it looks like it's leaving some kind of smoke trail as it moves. This is very similar to the wispy trail the black things leave as they're flying in very similar video footage. This is also not the first time this black wispy thing was also seen moving throughout a crowd as well. What exactly are these black flying things that we keep seeing ever since the April 8th solar eclipse? In this next disturbing video, and this kind of plays into the previous video, this bird was caught on camera producing electricity as it was flying. This video is strange because it looks like the bird is either producing some kind of static electricity or it's interacting with the static electricity in the sky. Some people are saying that this could be some kind of glitch in the matrix, or this could reinforce the theory that birds are not real. Now, I was never the type of person to believe in the theory that birds are not real, but it's very possible that some of these birds might not be real, given the fact that there are things called drone birds. If the public can use and has access to this technology, imagine the technology that they do not have access to and how many years this may go back. Is this video an example of a drone bird or a spy bird glitching out? And it begs the question, how many birds in the sky are actually real? This next disturbing video comes from Zay on TikTok, and he is going to be talking about Beyonce's halftime Christmas show, but he's going to be picking up on something. It's about this white horse. There is a lot of white horse symbolism lately, and after he plays this video, I'm going to go ahead and talk more about this white horse or pale horse.
So I don't know if anyone saw the halftime show a couple days ago on Christmas, but Beyonce, for her halftime performance, came out on a white horse. What is with all the symbolism as of late? Now, we know that Beyonce loves to give symbolism in all of her art that she does. However, this white horse cannot be a coincidence considering the fact where our world is today. It does not make any sense. Why would she do this? Remember the Olympics and all the symbolism with the Olympics and the pale horse? And now she comes out riding a white horse. Now, if you've read Revelation, you know in chapter 6, it talks about the white horse. And it says, then I watched as a lamb opened one of the 7 seals, and I heard one of the 4 living creatures say in a voice like thunder, come. And so I looked, and I saw a white horse, and its rider held a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he rode out to overcome and to conquer. All I'm saying is the symbolism has been really crazy in the last year. And I mean, I believe that they know what's coming. They're not just randomly doing things out of nowhere. No, they know what's coming. Just like you and I know what's coming. But they just play for the other team. Not to mention, we know how evil that person is. We all know that. And so I'm just saying, y'all, pay attention to the symbolism because they're not doing it for no reason. They're not. It's not for no reason.
He is absolutely right. As of 2024, we are seeing a lot of white horse, pale horse symbolism, and it has to be for a reason. Not only did we see this during the Olympic Games, the 2024 Olympic Games, but remember what happened in the Kingdom when the white horse and the black horse, they were escaping from something had spooked them, and we saw this blood covering this white horse. But not just that, also the black horse was running with it, and at the exact same time these horses had escaped, Big Ben just happened to stop. It happened to freeze. That was one of the eeriest events in 2024 that we really don't talk about to this day, and that had to carry a lot of symbolism. A white horse covered in blood and the black horse riding alongside of it, and at the same time, Big Ben just happens to freeze. This 2024 Olympic Games had a lot of symbolism in the opening and the closing ceremonies. People also noticed the horses, the white horse and the pale horse, which also means death. And again, at the end of this closing ceremony, we saw the portal imagery, and we are seeing a lot of portal imagery also as of 2024. And there were all these gray beings around this portal, and inside this portal was this golden Voyager, which many believe that this could be a fallen angel. We had almost all the countries around the world following this rider on the white horse, -1, and that country was at the Olympic Games. Yet, oddly enough, this country that begins with the letter I, they were missing among these flags that were following this rider on the white horse. And this rider on the white horse could be Christ, but it could also be the Antichrist. And given all the eerie and bizarre symbolisms that took place in this Olympic Games, I really doubt that this is Christ. So Beyonce is just showing more of that white horse symbolism that we have been seeing a lot of as of 2024. But in any case, thank you so
I can't believe some of the stuff that's happening, my friends. This is Tony. Hope you're all doing well. Honestly, I'm really hoping we can make it to next year the way things are going. We have companies striking left and right. We actually do have some positive news, believe it or not, amongst all these other stories that are just mind-boggling, making you feel like you're living, of course, in some sorts of other, dimension or something at this point. The fact is we have more of these videos. We have Norway now in the Middle East, things being chased down. You're not going to believe some of these videos. This is getting really beyond ridiculous at this point. We got some sinkholes in New Jersey. Okay. We got Chinese guys on planes saying the most, you won't believe this stuff. You remember the whole aliens on the planes thing from before? The lady's like, that's not real. We got that going on again. We got it again. Okay. I'm going to get into that. We got Elon Musk, freaking out and stuff, losing his mind apparently, and people are turning on him. We'll get into that as well. We got a lot of good stuff, my friends. Let's just get into this. Where should we start? Let's start with the Norway one. This one's kind of interesting. It's kind of chill. It's kind of chill for a UFO video. It's kind of chill for a drone video. Just a day of chasing them around with jets. Let's check this out. You got the UFO just kind of strolling along real slow, and you got the jet trying to keep up, having a hard time, as you can see. And notice the jet makes all the noise, and the UFO's silent, or the drone or whatever it is silent. And I feel like he was going slow. I felt like the drone or whatever it was going slow. Just like, hey, can you keep up with me? I don't know if you can keep up. So you got that video. We got, like I said, we're going to get into a ton of stuff. We have a sinkhole, and actually it ties into the Chinese guy in the airplane. You won't even believe how I didn't even realize it until after I looked into it. I mean, no way. This actually kind of relates. I'll get into that in a second. Let's just talk a little bit about this Elon thing a little bit, and we'll get into the whole sinkhole and all that stuff later in a little bit, very, very quickly. Let's just get into Elon first. So apparently Elon put out a tweet about the fact that they don't have enough skilled engineers for the semiconductor industry and other industries, right? And he goes, no, we need more like double that number. Yesterday, the number of people who are super talented engineers, super motivated in the U.S. is far too low. Think of it like a pro sport. Well, I can't speak. Think of it like a pro sports team. It's if you want the team to win the championship, you need to recruit top talent wherever they may be. So I'm actually an engineer myself, by the way. I don't know if you know that or not. I'm a mechanical engineer. And what's interesting about what he said is technically he might be right if he's talking about like the 0.001 top, engineers. You may want them, right? But you want to employ, of course, engineers from this country first, right? You do. It's okay to get some of the top guys from other countries, especially if we don't have enough over here. But my concern is that a lot of the people in the comment section are like, bro, we got lots of these people coming over here taking our jobs, and they're not the top echelon dudes. Okay, this ain't Nikola Tesla coming over here. Okay, we're getting people that don't even maybe have a college degree coming over here getting jobs, right? And taking our jobs. So that's basically what some of the comments were, was like, riddle me this, talking about immigration and stuff, and just going in and talking about how, and what's really interesting is I actually have a decent amount of knowledge here, and I'm going to show you some really interesting statistics real quick here that will kind of make sense of all of this. Okay, so obviously first, we know that the job openings are shrinking now. So clearly a lot of people are very concerned about this. Matter of fact, my wife is actually looking for a new job right now. Even though she's still working a job, she's looking for a better job. What's interesting about all this is that we have all these stats. Let me show you some of these stats. So we have here native versus foreign-born workers. Okay, so let me explain what's going on. So right now, the private sector is shrinking right here, negative. And the government sector was increasing for jobs. Again, this was also our wonderful Prez, Joe, could make the economy look better. Look, we got lots of new jobs because you're making them. in the government, which of course is paid for by the private sector that's shrinking, which means taxes are going to go up no matter what. Private sector shrinking. We pay the bills for the government. The government's increasing their jobs, and he's trying to make it look like the jobs are really good when actually he's just increasing government jobs, which is not actually good at all. Those are actually negative. They cost us money, right? So guess where all those government jobs are going? To foreign-born workers. A lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of the jobs in America, all the new ones are going to foreign-born workers, which is the H-1B, which is what everyone's complaining about. Now, Elon might be talking about like, a little fraction of this up here, like the top dudes. I don't have a problem with the top dudes being brought in, but like the majority of them, no, let's not bring all these people in. Let's give all these jobs to the Americans. Makes more sense, right? Duh. I mean, obviously, that would make the most sense. So what's going on here? What's ironic about all this is what is Elon going to be doing soon here? He's going to be part of this committee called Doge or whatever to cut the government spending, right? And what is that going to do? It's going to cut a lot of these jobs right here because all the new jobs are the government jobs. So all these new government jobs are actually going a lot to foreign-born workers. Not all of them, but quite a few. So ironically, when Elon starts cutting the government, he's going to be cutting a lot of foreign workers. So that's the irony in all this. So it's a little bit complex when you look at it, but I don't think he's saying what people think he's saying. And because of the way people reacted to what he said, he freaked out and went kind of crazy. Where was it? I got it around here. Yeah, here it is. Is this it? Where is it at? I got it around here somewhere. One sec. He said something not very nice. That's not that one. Okay, where did it go? I don't know how I managed to lose it. Okay, where is it? You got to be around here somewhere. Basically, you call people names. I'm trying to find the tweet. I don't know how I managed to lose it. Where did it go, man? At any rate, he said something really not nice. He kind of got angry, freaked out, said something mean to people. It was a 4-letter word. Okay, he said something pretty bad. It looked pretty bad. Trust me, it was really bad. So that even made it worse. So everyone's turning on Elon as a result of it. And I don't know why. I don't know how I managed to lose it, but I somehow lost it. I always seem to do stuff like that. At any rate, so you get the idea. So that's what's going on with that whole thing. Now, let's get over to the drone thing, the sinkhole, and the whole guy on the plane in a second here. First, I got to mention food supply, 25-year shelf life. Link is in the description. 3 months worth for $5.97. You're going to definitely want to get this if you have not already, my friends. You can see all this wonderful stuff going on around us. They already told us. A lot of people have been predicting this. Even my researcher predicted they were going to be doing this whole drone thing or unidentified object, right? What's really interesting about it is they're also saying, some of these people that were saying that's going to happen are saying they're going to start taking things out, causing destruction. I don't know if that's going to happen. If it does, that's going to be really, really, I don't know, crazy. So definitely want to be prepared. We don't know what's going to happen next. Link is in the description. Also, this book here, The Lost Ways, How Your Great-Great-Grandfather Lived Without Electricity, How to Build a Cellar, Do Things Around the House like they did in the good old days, hundreds of pages illustrated. You're going to definitely want to get this book. Get the printed version. Get it before something happens. You won't be able to buy it from me when the electricity's off, okay? You won't be able to go to Walmart and buy it either, okay? Link is in the description, $37 plus shipping. Again, get the printed version. And the link for this I don't know if hopefully it works good now. If it doesn't, just try to open it up another way. They moved over to a new system, so it might be, hopefully it's not glitchy anymore. It was really glitchy for a while. Anyway, let's get back to the video. So, of course, let's get over to this whole thing with this right here, the sinkhole. Massive sinkhole opens up in Wharton, New Jersey. There is no known cause as to why this thing opened up. Things continue to get weirder and weirder across New Jersey. Now, what's interesting about this isn't far from the city. Okay, this is like, I think 30, 40 miles. I'm not quite sure. It's in the same realm. Okay, there's a bunch of suburbs and stuff, and this is kind of a little bit out farther, but it's in that range. It's in that range. So what's really interesting about it is I saw this video from a Chinese airline, and these are Chinese people on the airline, and there's a guy trying to open the door on the plane while it's flying. Again, just like we saw in these other videos. What was that, like a year ago? The lady's like, that's not real, and saying the guy's like an alien or something. So apparently this guy is saying some very strange things as well, very bizarre. And actually it relates to that sinkhole sort of. I made a joke in my last video on my other channel. Maybe this is the, you got all these myths from American Indians and other cultures, ancient cultures, talking about how the lizards, of course, people lived underneath the ground, right? There's even one in underneath California like that. I forgot what it's called, something like that. But this guy says something rather strange on this. Check this out. It's actually in Chinese, so I'll just read what it says on the screen. What are they doing? He says, what are they doing? He says something about trying to open the door right there. Is he trying to open the door? Now, the guy screaming is the guy. That's the guy that's trying to open the door. And it says here, they are hollow, earth inhabitants. Oh, my goodness gracious, dude. He says that the people on the plane are from hollow, of course, Earth. Or maybe he's talking about the ones in the skies, the drones. Is that what he's talking about? Oh my goodness, maybe he is. And that's why I thought it was so strange, because we had this hole open up in New Jersey and people are saying that these things live under the ground, right? And then this guy says on the plane that they're from the hollow, of course, Earth. Then he says something even more strange. Check this out. This time is the 6th loop. He's saying he's actually stuck in a time loop. And he says, please open the door for me. Like, seriously, bro? While you're in the mid-flight? Why are you so afraid? What does he say? Why are you so afraid? Police is why you're afraid. The question. The accident is going to happen urgently. Call your family. What? He says some accident's going to happen. Maybe he's like some scientist dude that knows what's going to happen. I don't know what's going on here, dude. This is good stuff. Oh, he's talking about the plane disappearing, maybe. You remember the plane? Was it the Malaysian airline that was that the one that disappeared? I showed a video previously on that. Malaysia airline. Let me go look this up. Is that the one? This is crazy, man. What the heck's going on? This is the one. This is the one with the UFO. And then it disappears. Look, you can see it right there. This is the one. He's saying it's going to happen again. Oh my goodness, that guy who's been watching videos on YouTube. Now, I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe he really knows something. This is crazy. Then there's this on the news. There's something on the news. We're talking mainstream news. They're interviewing. Okay, what was this? Okay, let me back it up. Where was the part? Okay, so no, here it is. Okay, so Pentagon chief, also Harvard astronomer, have stated artificial interstellar object could be parent craft that releases small probes, meaning what we're seeing in New Jersey is the probes from the mothership. Honestly, I can't really talk seriously about this, but like at the same time, what if it actually is? I don't think it's actually a mothership, but I'm wondering if they're literally trying to do what we've been all saying they're going to do. Are they really going to do the UFO, or alien, of course, invasion? It actually looks like they're trying to do this. I mean, are they really trying to do this? This is ridiculous. And he says here, an artificial interstellar object could potentially be a parent craft that releases many small probes during its close passage to Earth. I thought it was the Iranians with their mothership. Apparently not. This stuff is getting ridiculous.
Shooting orbs down.
I think I showed you guys this one, right? The orbs. It's shooting orbs out
down towards the ground. But watch this. It is shot down and near. Every video seems to be getting crazier. Watch. Boom.
And that's like, I don't know. I've seen like 4. I think I've seen at least 4 orbs being taken, of course, out at this point. This is getting really, really ridiculous at this point. There's so many things. We also got the portals going on. By the way, they're not done opening portals. Pope Francis has got like, I think 3 more left. He's only done 2 of the 5. He did one at a prison, which was strange because I looked at him. He gained a ton of weight. Some people are saying it's not the real Pope Francis, but I think he might have just gained a ton of weight. Or it's his double. Maybe he has doubles. Does he have doubles? Maybe he can't go near these buildings because of who he is, because he's not a good person, because he didn't want to go to the Notre Dame Cathedral thing either. You remember when they opened the portals at the Notre Dame Cathedral? He didn't go there either. When he was invited and he canceled at the last minute or something. And the guy that opens these doors, the one at the prison too, is like very overweight. I don't know if he gained like 40, 50 pounds or something. He might have gained a ton of weight sitting in that chair all the time. Maybe because he's in a wheelchair now, he gained weight. I don't know. But he don't look the same as he did. Even 2 years ago, he's a lot thinner. This was from 2015. This one, he shows this clip here. It's actually 2015, that one, where you could still walk. And there's other videos. I might do a video on this later. There's actually these invisible people. I'm not saying it's necessarily the case. I think I might have saw. Okay, it sounds crazy. Okay, so a guy in South Carolina, and it's actually not the only one. There's apparently 2 in South Carolina that had videos from around their house where trees are getting broken in half and broken down, like massive parts of it just breaking off, and you can't even see what's doing it. I'm going to show that probably in another video. I was trying to see if I could see the thing doing it. I think I saw it in one of them. Also, we got some stuff going on with China. Just like, what is going on? I think it was something Patterson Air Force Base, the one at recent, it was like a week or two ago, one of the first military bases to actually be affected by these drones and orbs. There's a guy that retired from there, and I actually covered it on a previous video. I might actually have it open still here because I got so many windows open. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, it took me a while to find it, but here we go. Here it is. All right, so this guy here retired from the base.
1993.
Okay, here we go.
1995.
Let's see if I can find it.
Air Force Base.
Yeah, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. That's what it was called. This guy retired from there in 1993. And he was saying in his essential farewell speech,
completed his
this. Let me just play this and we'll listen.
Slides with the following quote: "The U.S. Air Force has just given us a contract to take ET back home." He also mentioned, "We already have the means to travel among the stars, but these..."
So he says that we already have the means to travel among the stars. And he says it's all tied up in these projects, black, of course, projects. And then he goes on, and there's another guy that says that all this stuff is going to be known in 2025. So they had this stuff already set up. They already knew this was going to occur in 2025. Now, what I think is going on here is I think we're seeing something that happened 500 years ago. Let me show you that. So back in 1561, there was a celestial phenomenon over Germany. And I believe that was the end of the white dragon's time entering into the red dragon. Now, if you've never watched my channel before, you have no clue what I'm talking about. There's this concept, this ancient concept of dragons vying for power over the world. And a very commonly well-known dragon is the red dragon of Revelation. That's the bad dragon. Okay. The book of Esther talks about this in a chapter that was removed. And this last chapter of book of Esther, it's called Mordecai's Dream, where he dreams about 2 dragons vying for power over the world. And one was an evil dragon and one was a good dragon. Now, the evil dragon is the red dragon. And even King Arthur and Merlin the magician, they also had a dream. I think it was Merlin that had the dream of 2 dragons. One was a red dragon, one was a white dragon. And it basically was talking about, he was around the time of 500 AD. So basically it went from the red dragon to the white dragon during the Middle Ages. So 1,000 years of the white dragon. We've been under the red dragon for 500 years. from King Henry VII until now. That was around the time of this. So I believe what we're seeing here, and this is just kind of my theory, is sort of a celestial battle in the heavens, meaning these spiritual entities vying for, of course, power over the world. It might sound strange, but this happened before. Again, 500 years ago. This happens every 500 years, where they fight for power over the world for 500 more years. And I can actually tell you the history. 1000 BC to 500 BC was the red dragon. 500 BC to 0 AD was the white dragon. We know this from the book of Esther. I've covered this before on my channel. I show how we have the exact same celestial, we have the exact same solar eclipses dates, the same dates as 480 BC, the time of the book of Esther, the exact same days for every single solar eclipse in 2024, verse 480 BC. That was the time when it went from the red dragon to the white dragon, because Esther saved Israel. And then 0 AD to 500 AD was the red dragon. It says in scripture in the NT, New Testament, that the God of this world, which actually the word is age, the God of this age is the devil, meaning the red dragon is over the world for 500 years, from the 0 AD to 500 AD. 500 AD to 1500 AD is the millennial kingdom, 1,000 years of the white dragon. We are in the time after that, the 500 years where the devil has a short time, according to Revelation, and we're at the end of it. We're at the time where the Gog and Magog happens. And I'm going to actually show all of this. I'm going to show all the evidence for this in this video. But what I wanted to get into is I believe that's what we're seeing with these orbs. Some very bizarre, you have people tracking them out in the ocean now near New Jersey.
Gosh, that thing is right there at us.
And they track them for extended periods of time. Joe Rogan had an expert on, a former jet pilot, saying that these things do not behave like drones. They move too quickly. They stay in the sky way too long. Even the ones that appear to be drones stay in the sky way too long. And another thing is I saw an orb morph into a drone, which is another very bizarre thing. Makes you wonder if these are actually drones or pretend drones. This is another thing. I'm like, what's going on here? And there's ones now dripping molten metal as well. It's so bizarre, some of the stuff. Check this out.
This is getting insane. Somebody just recovered molten metal that was dropped from a drone that was hovering behind their house in Wickham, England. The user posted these pictures on Reddit.
So what's really interesting about this is every time someone posts something like this and it goes viral, they usually delete it, or they're told to take it down. I'm talking about the people that actually make the footage, that actually post it. So this person actually deleted their stuff. They first put all this information over on Reddit, and then they deleted it. It's been deleted. And this has happened many times. There's actually people that have posted on X saying that when they posted their video, they were visited by the police later, or agents telling them to delete their footage. And very curious, because of course everyone's seeing this, so I don't know why they're even trying at this point. I mean, it's not like it's not happening everywhere. Again, this happened 500 years ago as well. You have these drawings of what it looked like. If I can get it on the screen, there we go. Very bizarre. Matter of fact, I just saw a video of several orbs in a row all together, moving in unison, just like this shows here. I just saw a video in some guy's backyard, and it showed like 5 orbs just like literally moving in unison together in front of the camera and back and away like this. It was really bizarre. And I just noticed that this has 5 of them in a row too, like just like it did in that video. It's really weird. Now, again, we have also videos like this where it shows them moving, and it looks similar to how the Ezekiel's wheel was described. It also reminds me of that movie Contact, where they have some weird contraption that's shaped like this as well for time travel in that movie. But it's just really bizarre. People talking to them. And I think these may be actually interdimensional beings. We have here, of course, Wes Huff explaining a little bit about this as well, about angels.
But these are these characters which the Book of Enoch is trying to make sense of, along with demons. And so the way that they go about that is by capitalizing on the events that happen immediately before Genesis chapter 6 and the biblical flood.
He's talking about Mount Hermon and the watchers coming down, 200 of them. I did a video a week or two ago about this. Just look for the one with the Mount Hermon on it picture. Go check it out. But in this video, like I said, what I want to do is, I think what's going on here is a lot of people already knew this was going to happen. Matter of fact, my researcher was telling me this even. And I think it may be tied to this, that maybe this is something that happens every 500 years, that these things are in the sky sort of battling it out. It's kind of like the white dragon versus the red dragon, spiritual forces fighting it out in the heavens. Now, it sounds strange, but actually it's not just over New Jersey. It's actually over several places at this point. It's actually in other countries now. It's over Air Force bases in numerous countries. And I think, though, the devil's trying to use this to sell us something else. He wants to sell the whole alien story, that we need to be saved from ourselves because we're gonna have world WAR and it's our fault and we're just bad people, right? This is kind of like, I feel like where it's going. Anyway, I wanted to kind of prove the time we're really in, because of course in church they just tell you about left behind and you're going to get beamed out of here, Scotty, and it's the end before, and the Antichrist is here, right? This is what they tell you now in church, but I'm going to show you in this video that happened 1,500 years ago. I'm going to prove it. I'm going to show a quote from that John, the Apostle John, took from the Sibylline Oracles, showing what he believed. The guy who wrote Revelation, what he believed about Revelation. I'm going to show you that. I'm going to show you all the dates aligning with what the Apocrypha says and much more in this video. You ever heard of the Sibylline Oracles? And we're going to get into a lot from the Sibylline Oracles because apparently Apostle John quoted them in Revelation. I'm going to show you the quote, and no one knows this. And it tells you exactly when the Christ was coming. Okay? And it already happened a long time ago. Let me show you this. And of course, some of you are going to want to instantly turn this off, but I guarantee if you watch this to the end, you're going to definitely be happy you did, because I'm going to show you so much evidence that this is true. It's going to blow your mind. All right. So in reality, what happened was the Apostle John quoted from the Sibylline Oracles. Let me see if I can get this pulled up. This stuff's so hard to find. It's so amazing when I find these things that are these gems that are so difficult to find. So apparently there's these Sibylline Oracles. These were actually referenced and used by the early church fathers, like Tertullian, St. Theophilus of Antioch, etc., etc. These guys from the very early times, ante-Nicene early church fathers. These oracles are prophecies. It started around 200 BC to about 200 AD. There's a bunch of prophecies that are called oracles. It kind of reminded me of the movie The Matrix with Keanu Reeves. The lady that the African-American lady that predicts things, I think she's called the Oracle. And it's very similar to this. It's called the Sibylline Oracles. I mean, it's not similar to the movie, but it just reminded me of the movie, because about the only other place I hear the word oracle I could think of was the movie The Matrix. So this thing's called the Sibylline Oracles, and it predicted Emperor Constantine. Okay? It predicted when the end would come. It predicted when the Messiah would come. Okay, let me show you all this. This is crazy stuff. Let me first show you the quote where Apostle John, read this. It's pretty obvious if you read this part right here. At that time, the prince of iniquity, who will be called the Antichrist, will arise from the tribe of Dan. He will be the son of perdition, the head of pride, the master of error, the fullness of malice, who will overturn the world and do wonders and great signs through dissimulation. He will delude many by magic art, so that fire will seem to come down from heaven. You see that right there? Fire will seem to come down from heaven. I believe Apostle John got his text from this. You know why? This lady lived before him. I'll show you that. Here we go. When did Tiburtine Sibyl of Albania live? Actually, her name's Albania. I can't even say these words. The Tiburtine Sibyl, also known as Albania lived in ancient Sabino Latin town of Tibur, which is now known as Tivoli. The Tiburtine Sibyl is said to have met with Emperor Augustus at around 27 BC to 14 BC, somewhere in there, and shown him a vision of the Virgin Mary and her child. This was before he was born. Predicted the birth of the King of Kings somewhere between basically about 20 plus years before he was born. This was written down in the Sibylline Oracles, which is, again, is a collection of prophecies. Obviously, John lived for quite a while. And they say that he was the one that, the Revelation was one of the last books written. I'm not quite sure when it was written. Okay. Maybe it was written in 50 AD, 60 AD. I don't even know. But it's kind of hard to believe that she probably wasn't still around at that point. I mean, obviously she would have been at least, I'm just going to guess, she's probably at least 20 years old at least when she talked to Emperor Augustus. And that would have been around 20 CE. So by 0 AD or 3 AD, or actually, well, he was born in 3 BC, but let's just say 3 BC when he was born. So she would probably be at least 40 something years old when he was born, at least. And this is like bare minimum. So she might have been 60 or 80. I don't even know how old she was at that point. By the time that they wrote Revelation, she would have probably been 70, at bare minimum, 70 years old, probably. Bare minimum. So she was probably gone by the time Apostle John wrote Revelation. But she made the prediction before he wrote it. You see what I'm getting at? So we're going to get into, like I said, we're going to get into a ton of stuff. I wanted to play this clip here from Dr. Michael Heiser. Let me get it to the right place. Okay, I think it was around here. All right, here we go. Here we go. Let me play this.
I think pastors regularly underestimate the intelligence of the person in the pew. It really gripes me that sermon content is so dumbed down. I think it's insulting to many people in the pew.
Give us an example of that.
Just, basically anywhere, how no matter where you're preaching, the passage becomes about salvation, tithing, baptism, all the basics of the Christian.
So like he's saying, basically, in a lot of churches, the focus is on what's in the now. Oh, we need money for the church. It's about very basic stuff in your life. And they continually just drive home the same point using various scriptures. They're not actually getting into the scriptures and getting into the ancient history and things of that nature, like you would expect or hope. Now, I saw this other clip over on the Deep End with Taylor Welch, where we have Timothy Alberino on, and he's talking about something in his book. Now, this is Welch basically quoting something Timothy Alberino said. Check this out. This is really interesting, and it tells you a little bit about our ancient history.
First and foremost, I want to start with the statement you made in the book. You said mankind did not invent civilization. He inherited it. And humans were not the first things on this planet.
That's right.
Most people who would call themselves.
So what's really interesting about this, and I started to realize this myself, and I talked about it recently in video, that there were these beings, he calls them the elder race. Timothy Alberino calls them the elder race, which I think is a good way to designate them, because what the church has done is they call them angels, and which doesn't really, is a really bad way of doing it, because the word angels means messengers. It's a job. It's like being a postman. It doesn't tell you anything about these beings, who they are. It doesn't tell you, what their classification as a being is or anything, right? And they tell us in church, basically, time started with Adam and Eve. In reality, that's not the case. These beings, this elder race, we're the younger race. This elder race were around for thousands of years on Earth with civilization in place before we ever came along. And the reason why the devil did the things he did is because he'd already been around for thousands of years. He was already sort of the head honcho, not the head honcho. Obviously, that's the King of Kings, or God, but he was like high up. He was high up on the stature as an angel, and he had gotten pretty big head at this point. And God himself told him to bow to man because man was made in his image, God's image. And he didn't want to do it. This is according to the book of Adam. And this is what led to him sinning, his pride, and what led to this ultimate where he's basically trying to thwart us at every turn and moment, right? This is what led to him essentially hating us. So what's really interesting about this is the Sibylline Oracles. Again, it's like 200 BC to 200 AD, a bunch of prophecies, talks about these beings. It talks about the Titans, and it's really amazing because it gets into Greek mythology. It talks about the primordial gods. And these are, okay, so the Sibylline Oracles were used by the early church. Okay, a lot of the early church fathers loved the Sibylline Oracles, thought they were inspired. Today, you've never even heard of them. And I always wondered when I remember way back in college wondering, how did the Greek myths fit into our faith? How is it this other religion that has nothing to do with our faith was created? It doesn't even make sense. It's because the devil has separated the facts of history from each other and replaced it with other things so that you don't know what's going on. So if God, Jehovah, created a spirit in earth called Gaia, not something to worship, but rather just a spirit, the earth spirit, and it even says in scripture, the earth cries out, what did you do, Cain, to Abel? It says that the earth cries out. How did the earth cry out if it's not real? If it's just a material object and there's nothing there? How did it cry out? Because it has a spirit. It's not something you worship. This is where the people fell. They started worshiping these beings, these elder race, these gods or titans, small g gods. They started worshiping them when they were not supposed to. You're only supposed to worship one God, the Jehovah, right? Or Yahweh, or however you want to call it. So it says in the Sibylline Oracles that there was first the primordial gods, then they had a second race of gods that were offspring, and then there was the Titans that were offspring, and there were multiple generations of the Titans. And this is from the Greek mythology, and the Sibylline Oracles talk about there is some veracity to these stories, that these beings were these elder race that had offspring. And this explains the book of Enoch, where these watchers came down and mated with humans because they also could mate. They were beings. They had physical bodies, although some of them clearly had exceptional powers. Some were interdimensional, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what's, I thought that was really interesting, looking into some of that. But getting into the specific prophecies in this part of the Sibylline Oracles, this isn't in the entirety of the Sibylline Oracles. This is some sections. They have a section where it predicts the Messiah, a section that predicts the Anti-One or Christ, the Pompeii, what happened at Pompeii, that catastrophe that happened there. It predicts all these things. Okay, it's absolutely astounding. And the part that predicts the birth of the Messiah and the Anti-One is the Tiburtine Sibyl prophecy, which is the one I've been talking about. The Tiburtine Sibyl, also known as Albania, was a woman who lived in ancient Sabino-Latin town of Tibur. I told you about this, and she met with Emperor Augustus, predicted the Virgin Mary and her son. Now, Constans was the son of Constantine. So I don't know if she was referring to Constance, because she literally said the word Constance, and I'll show you that. Let me show you that real quick. Oh, wait, wrong one. Here it is. So here's the quote. Then there will rise a king of the Greeks whose name is Constans, which is either referring to Constantine or his son. Either way, it works. It's still the same thing in the aspect that they both brought forth Christianity to Rome. He will be king of the Romans and Greeks. He will be tall of stature, handsome of appearance, with shining face, well put together. After this, he will come to Jerusalem, having put off the diadem from his head, laid aside the whole imperial garth. He will hand over the empire of the Christians to God and his son, saying that his empire will be dedicated to God, which is exactly what happened with Constantine and his son Constans. Then shortly after that, after this occurs, it says this, in doing so, he will give the way to the Antichrist. At that time, the prince of iniquity, who will be called the Anti-One, will arise from the tribe of Dan. He will be the son of perdition, the head of pride, the master of error, fullness of malice, who will overturn the world and do wonders, great signs through dissimulation. He will delude many with the magic art. Fire will seem to come down from heaven. When the Roman Empire shall have ceased, then the Anti-One will openly be revealed and will sit on the house of the Lord in Jerusalem. This is saying it will happen shortly after Constantine. And this is exactly correlating with my dream. I had a dream about this as well. And this also specifically matches the timeline set up in all the apocryphal literature as well, which I'm going to show you now. So what time frame did they tell you that we live in currently? Let me show you this. So they tell you that we live in this year. What year is it on the AM calendar? They tell you that you live in 5,785. This is incorrect, and I will show it to you in a minute here. Interestingly, it says that all things will end in the year 6,000. Let me show you this. Here we go. Attend, my children, to the meaning of the expression, he finished in 6 days. This implies the Lord will finish all things in 6,000 years. For a day is like 1,000 years with him. He himself testifies, saying, behold, today will be 1,000 years. Be as 1,000 years. Therefore, my children, in 6 days, that is in 6,000 years, all things will be finished. And I'll show you numerous things that back this up. This is the letter of Barnabas. Now, they tell you that we are in currently the year, where was it at? 5,785, which would indicate, if this was actually true, it would indicate that we have 215 years until the end. Okay. However, this is not true. This is a lie. And I'll show that to you now. So, interestingly, it also says that he will change the times and seasons when he comes. So, let me show you this. Let me find this. Seasons. Okay, maybe it's not here. Let me find it real quick. He'll think to change the times and seasons. Let me go find that verse. Change the times and seasons. Here we go. Daniel 2:21. He changes times and season. He disposes king. No, this is not it. Where is it at? They will think to change. Here it is. This is the right one. Daniel 7:25. And you shall speak great words against the Most High, shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws. Okay? Talking about the Anti-One. Okay, so what time are we really in? Let me show you that. According to Theophilus of Antioch, we are in the year, and I'll show you this. I'll just show you the quote first. All the years of creation of the world amount to a total of 5,698 years, odd months and days. Theophilus of Antioch, AD 169. So if you subtract 169 from 5,698, you add in 2024, you get the year 7,553. That would indicate we are 1,500 years after the end. He said, does that make sense? Does that sound crazy? Let me explain. The end was at the fall of Rome, 6,000 AM. Then there was a millennial kingdom called the Middle Ages. Medieval times was 1,000 years long. That's the millennial kingdom, referred to in Revelation. After that was 500 years. It says that the devil will be let out for a short season. After the millennial kingdom is over, he'll be let out of the bottomless pits for a short season. Short season is probably less than a day. 1 day equals 1,000 years. It's been 500 years. It's been 500 years since the millennial kingdom, and he's went forth to deceive the nations. I would say he's done a pretty good job of deceiving the nations. He's done a pretty good job. So in reality, and let me show you this in other ways too. So if you look, this is where they changed the times. How did they get it from 7,553 to 5,785? Well, here's one of the things they did. They literally deleted hundreds of years off different people in the genealogy. Right here, you can see it. The Hebrew Masoretic, they deleted hundreds of years off these people right here. The Greek Septuagint, Samaritan Pentateuch, Flavius Josephus, a historian, all agree this is the correct time frame. This is the modified one called AM3. This is AM1. I can show this in the Encyclopedia Britannica in a second here as well, proving this. But here's even more obvious way to prove it. Here's the correct one from the Septuagint or Flavius Josephus. You can see the normal progression of people being born, fathers dying before their sons. The father dies, the son lives longer, etc., etc. You see that? Looks kind of like an angle, right? Here's the one that they tell us today, which is everywhere. Notice it's not in a line like that anymore. It's some weird cockeyed thing. You see that? They deleted hundreds of years in here so they could put Melchizedek at the time of Abraham. And there's a reason why they did that. It's because they wanted to disprove the King of Kings as being of the order of Melchizedek. So these are people who didn't like him, the King of Kings, and they were trying to disprove him. And for some reason, the church accepts this, these dates. That doesn't make any sense. Why would you accept something like that? It's a modification. So they actually modified time. And I'll show that in the Encyclopedia Britannica now, which used to be on your bookshelf back in the old days. No longer there anymore. Now we got Wikipedia. So interestingly, they talk about AM1, AM2 in the Encyclopedia Britannica. Let me show you this. This is around the time of the fall of Rome. And I'm going to show you who is the beast of Revelation. I'm going to prove it very, very elaborately in a second here. It works. It makes perfect sense when you see it all. I'll actually I haven't done this before. I'm actually going to show you way more details than I have in the past. So here we go. This was around the time of the fall of Rome. However creative or successful with theologians their approaches were, they merely delayed the problem despite pagan and Christian belief in Roma Eterna, eternal Rome. The empire would fall no matter how far away. 6000 AM, AD 500. This is AM1. This is the calendar you can't find anywhere anymore. This is the one that puts us at 7,550 right now. So no matter how far away 6,000 AM, 8,500 seemed from 5,700, 200, it did not seem so far away in the 5900s, 400 AD. Indeed, the Western Roman Empire faltered just before the year 6,000 approached, turning the anti-apocalyptic sabbatical chronology an imperial obstacle to Antichrist exegesis into profoundly apocalyptic ones. At the beginning of the 5th century, AD 59 AM, Jerome and Augustine, perceiving the danger of apocalyptic millennialism, developed a new and more stringent way to oppose it. Jerome introduced a new set of calculations called AM2 that placed the incarnation 300 years earlier, meaning he literally, lack of a better term, lied about when the King of Kings was born and placed it 300 years earlier just so people would stop thinking the end of the world was coming at the fall of Rome. Why would you do that? Why did Jerome do that? That's a good question. At the same time, he heaped ridicule and contempt on millennialists, the believers in foolish tales of earthly delights, gluttony, and sex. So this is talking about the millennial kingdom of 1,000 years, that they're going to have a paradise, as it says in Scripture, which was the medieval times. Augustine went still further, arguing that neither history nor chronology can be interpreted apocalyptically, and that the millennium was not a future event, but one that had been set in motion. To explain the continued existence of war, hatred, injustice, poverty, Augustine used the notion of two cities. These were a heavenly city and the celestial Jerusalem. So one of his books was actually to sort of stop people from thinking that the end was coming. Why would these guys argue against what Scripture is saying? Why would they do that? It's a good question. Well, what is interesting is that St. Augustine, which I just showed you, and Jerome, who are both trying to get people not to believe the end was coming at the fall of Rome, were also happened to be friends with a man who ended up being Pope Sixtus III. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So you remember the scripture in Revelation to watch out for a certain number. In the book of Revelation, the number 666, another 6 is referred to as the number of the beast. It's from Revelation 13:18. It says that you will not be able to buy or sell, save they had, of course, the mark. Now, what's really interesting is there's a legend that surrounds this Pope Sixtus III that he required a mark, of course, to purchase and sell, or to buy and sell. And this man, his name, Pope Sixtus, the number 6, Sixtus means the number 6 in English. Sixtus is Latin for 6, and it says 3 times. So Pope 6, 6, and another 6. Interestingly, Augustine was friends with Pope Sixtus III. If you go ask Google AI, it will tell you, yes, St. Augustine of Hippo and Pope Sixtus III were friends and corresponded frequently. Before becoming Pope, Sixtus was a prominent member of Roman clergy and a patron of Pelagius. Now, this is really interesting because it says in Scripture, the beast shall rise from the sea. Now, the word Pelagius means of the sea. Yes, the name Pelagius means of the sea. So, as you saw back here, Sixtus was a prominent member of Roman clergy and a patron of Pelagius. He was under the tutelage of Pelagius, and he turned on him. It says in Revelation that the beast rises out of the sea. In the book of Revelation, the beast rising out of the sea. So he rose and turned against the sea. He rose out and left the sea. The sea was Pelagius. Pelagius was who he was under the teaching of, and he turned on Pelagius and joined St. Augustine. So Pelagius, so the beast, Pope 6, 6, and another 6, turned and left the sea, came out of the sea of Pelagius, and became the beast. We're talking of Revelation. This was all in 440 AD. Around the exact time the Sibylline Oracles say the anti-one would come. And it also correlates with all these apocryphal texts that say that at the year 6000 will the end come. Now, let me just show you this. So we have these texts like first Adam and Eve, second Adam and Eve, talking about after great 5 days and a half, concerning which I've made a promise to thee and thy father, I will send my word, the Logos, to save thee and thy seed. This is in second Adam and Eve, an apocryphal text, saying that at the year 5500, that's when the Son will come. And we see it here in the book of Adam. When 5,000 years will be completed, then at the 5,500th year, the beloved Son, the Messiah, will come upon the earth, and he'll be baptized in the river Jordan. It says the exact time that he will be on earth at the year 5,500, using the original timeline. That was around exactly 0 AD. Okay. So then we go, and when does the end come? When does the end come? It comes at the year 6000. What happens at the year 6000? And let me show you this on another thing as well. I have another thing that will spell it out also. Right here. Attend, my children, the meaning of the expression, he has finished in 6 days. This implies the Lord will finish all things in 6,000 years. Coming back to this, 6,000 years, Beliar said to Sheol, look carefully, who is it that, for it is Elijah and Enoch, or one of the prophets that it may seem to be. But Sheol answered death and said, not yet are 6,000 years accomplished. So Elijah and Enoch come at the 6,000 year point. The 6,000 year point is the fall of Rome, is Pope Sixtus III. Elijah and Enoch are the two olive trees before the throne that come and preach right at the end, which is the fall of Rome. You see how all this stuff correlates perfectly, unbelievably perfectly. And all these texts say the exact same thing when you look into it. Now, it says that there'll be a millennial kingdom, which is the medieval times. After that, there'll be a short season when the devil is released to deceive the nations. And it talks about him changing the times and laws. Daniel 7, and he shall speak great words against the Most High and shall wear out the saints and think to change the times and laws, to change the timeline, which has happened. The timeline did indeed change. Instead of it being AM1 like they thought 2,000, 3,000 years ago, instead, now they tell us we're in AM3, although they don't tell you it's AM3. And they tell you that we're at a time where it's only 5,000. Let me pull it up. I can't find the link. 5,784. What year is it on the AM calendar? Here we go. 5,785. This is what they tell us we're in. When actually, in reality, it is 7,553. And it's very difficult to find this information anymore, even though it was the standard 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago. They used this calendar and it was removed. So, at any rate, I think you get kind of the idea. Now, this leads into a kingdom that was erased, of course, from history, which I've talked about on this channel, that happened during the medieval times. Rome was only a small portion of this entire thing. They're the ones that legalized the faith. But after that, there was a massive kingdom that was created. Tateria, I've talked about it numerous times before. You can see it on all these old maps, but they tell you today, of course, it doesn't exist. It was merely Asia. But in reality, if you look at all these medieval maps, it tells you that they even moved into North America. They had a massive kingdom. It was the last great empire before Great Britain that no one seems to know about for some reason. And of course, if you look at if you think this is strange, let me show you the proof. This was taught in America's early years of creation. During the early days of America, they taught about this kingdom. Here you can read right here. Colonies, and I'll call them TARS. TARS colonies passed into America, as you can read there on the screen. Here's the first. This is an 1835 school book in the USA talking about them. The first sovereign who bore the title Tsar was Ivan Vasilievich the First, surnamed the Great, who at the year 1481 succeeded in freeing Russia from the dominion of the Tars. It was at this period the Cossacks first appeared in history. World War I was not the first World War. You can actually see it if you look in history. They just don't call it a world war, but they were all going in to defeat these Tars around the world. And then after that, you never hear about them ever again. Who wins? The victor writes, of course, history. Very interesting. Why would they try to erase this? Perhaps it was the devil going forth to deceive the nations, because he doesn't want you to know about the past. He wants you to believe it never happened. And you're still waiting for it to happen. You're still waiting for this millennial kingdom. You're still waiting to be beamed up out of here, Scotty, as they say in Star Trek with the Left Behind series. They want you to believe you're still way back then, when it's already happened and we're in the time afterwards. And no one seems to know this at all. And I would say the smoking guns are things like Pope Sixtus III, which no one seems to know who he is. Yet, logically, this makes no sense. Because if you would read history and you heard that there was a Pope 6 and another 6, wouldn't you think that's striking and kind of important? You'd be like, whoa, a Pope 6 and another 6? I would remember that. How is it when I look through Google, I could only find one book from like the 1800s that even mentioned his name? How is it no one else mentioned his name? Why is it no one knows who this is? It's absolutely astounding to me. This is when I know I found something. When I find something like this and you can't find any information on it, and it should be something everyone knows because of the just mere ridiculous nature of the name itself, should make it obvious. At any rate, that's kind of my video.
Video is going to be the best compilation of UFO, UAP, drones, crazy stuff going on in the sky that I think I've ever done. And thanks to you guys also for sending me some of these clips, mate. I really do appreciate it. If you're new here and you don't know what we're doing, we cover everything to do with the paranormal, from ghosts, aliens, UFOs. We're going to be doing also giants, mermaids, Bigfoot, the whole shebang, okay? In fact, make sure you go and check out yesterday's video, because I actually did something a little bit different. I did a deep dive into a video that's just gone viral. I mean, it is an old video, but it's just gone viral about a guy in North Carolina recording his trees swaying, pushed around, snapping, breaking in half, but you can't see anything doing it, right? So we took a deep dive into that. Now, a lot of people were saying to me, Ben, this is two years, this is an old video and stuff like that. I think people were thinking that I was relating this to the New Jersey situation. I wasn't. It was just like people were talking about this being potential aliens. And so it just made me think of the Las Vegas situation. Hence why I wanted to cover it. But anyway, mate, go over there, check it out. And also thanks to the people that have been sending me emails and stuff and photo screenshots of what they think they've seen in this tree. It's really weird. If you're on the fence about whether UFOs exist, aliens exist, I'm pretty sure that this video is going to sway you onto the side of, yeah, something else is out there, okay? It's not all CGI, it's not all drones, it's not all lanterns, okay? There's something going on. So I'm going to be showing you things which are, I would say, 100% legit. There's clearly something. And also, I'm going to be pushing to the edge of maybe a little bit skeptical, but what do you think? Because I want you to tell me what you think about these things as well, okay? Let me just talk to the people that are a little bit more skeptical when it comes to things like this, a little bit more on the fence, or tend to find things more fake than believable, you know, as default. You're the type of person that probably needs a little bit more context, a little bit more facts behind it, or a little bit more evidence. Okay, because if I was just to throw a whole bunch of videos at you, you might just go to your default. Yeah, that's weather balloon, that's lantern, that's drones, or whatever. So take a little listen to this pilot here, who's claiming to see something.
Well, you're going to think I'm crazy. There's something that just went from right to left to right in a blink and then flashes lights 3-4 times and vanished.
Okay, well, I had an airplane cross from right to left, E-175, and now there's another one, 777 up there high off the right side that descended to 28. That might be those two aircraft, I'm not sure.
This thing went 180 degrees in like a second.
Oh, goodness. All right. Yeah, let me know if you see it again. We'll make a report.
Well, the details, it literally went from one coast to the other in front of us, and then it went up like 30 degrees. Turn off its lights or whatever it had. It looked like it's a bright orangey thing, and then since we spoke to you last, it flashed us like 3-4 times, and we are still looking at it now.
So where is it roughly if I was to give you a traffic call?
I would say probably 60, 80 miles in front of us, and it looks like it's coming, I don't know, it's flashing towards us, but it is definitely not an airplane. It doesn't have the strobe lights or anything on it. It's just this bright orange going on and off. Yep, this definitely wasn't an airplane.
So this pilot's seen some orange orb. Now, I want to show you this video because this sort of probably is similar to what this pilot saw. This is from Tangle Titty on X, orbs in northern Louisiana. But there's something about this video that I don't think they've actually mentioned. The description basically says on the 21st of December, witnesses saw an orange orb whilst driving in northern Louisiana. And they mentioned about the orb growing, expanding and then contracting. I think that's something to do with the focus. But there's something on here that I noticed that nobody's talking about. Watch this main orange orb here. Now, if you watch closely, once it gets past this tree, a small white orb, another small white orb comes down and it starts rotating around it. Now, fair enough, because it's, you know, it's not darting around. Here we go. See this thing here? Look at this thing. So, yeah, okay, maybe it's a lantern, but what is that going around it? What is that spinning around it? So the car's stopped now. It's still moving. Oh, is that what they're talking about? The expansion bit? Whoa, that is strange. Just slow it down. Oh. That is really strange, yeah. I mean, there's focus. What it could be? But that slowly expands and contracts, right? I thought that sometimes, you know, when phones, when you zoom in, it flicks between the different lenses, and there's sometimes a like a quick snap or jump when it clicks to a different lens. But this is a smooth transition. What? Okay. What? Look. No, hang on a second. That's not a focus. Okay. I first started talking about that white orb going around it, but now we're actually looking into this thing. I dismissed it at first, but now I'm looking at this. The trees don't go in and out of focus. How strange. But also, it's odd that we see this orb here. This thing just spins around it. Look, it's just gone around it, back underneath it, over there again. This thing just went around and back, and then it's going to cross here like this. Let's go backwards. So there it is. You can sort of see it through the tree. There you go. Now it's here. So you think, okay, well, that's just it, you know, because we're traveling. But now it's literally is going past it, around it, and then travels past. How peculiar is that? Is that somebody maybe with a drone going up to the orb and like looking around it? Very strange, very strange. I really want to show you this because this is my hometown, and I just thought this was absolutely amazing. I wish I saw this, and I know I keep on talking about me going out and doing it, right? The thing is with the UK, the weather is crap here, and it's always overcast and cloudy and cold and wet and everything like that, and it's so difficult to see things up in the sky. Hence, like, the summertime is the best time to do that. But I will be going out. Okay, watch closely here. Look at the colors of this. People in comments are saying plasmoids. In a bit, I'm going to be showing you an orb that literally is morphing. Something morphs out of this orb. It's absolutely amazing. But see, you think now, look at it separate. This thing just separated into two. We've gone from like maybe 4 orbs of like magical colors to almost disappearing, to then into 2 white orbs. This is exactly why people think that it has some sort of intelligence with it. Look at the reflection on the sea here as well. That's how bright it is. Amazing. Staying in England, this is in Stonehenge. Of all the places to see a UAP, it's Stonehenge. Okay, look at this.
Look. Oh, two.
But saying that, right, I'm talking about a cloudy day. This is a cloudy day. You can see these as clear as day. Yeah, I got to get out there. Look at this.
It almost looks like fire. But it is an army base around here.
Come on, tilt down, mate. Tilt down.
Funk is going on up in here.
It's very strange that a lot of them come in pairs, right? It's very strange that a lot of them, a lot of these orbs, you see them in pairs. Let me just show you that orb that I was talking about that morphs. This is incredible, and it goes back to what a lot of people were saying, that these orbs are manifesting into something else, right? Shape shifting. Are these orbs shape shifting into drones? Are these orbs shape shifting into other orbs, like multiplying? Is it Project Bluebeam? Like, what is going on? Look at this.
But it just looks incredibly bright.
This is New Jersey orb.
What the heck? Did I just record? What?
Right?
Alexis, I don't think it's a plane.
Plane, but it just looks incredibly bright.
Now, they're saying it's a plane, but when we're zooming in on that orb, they look like the orbs that have been captured, zoomed in with like some sort of energy force around it. And I'm going to show you an amazing footage of that in a minute, where a lot of people are saying it's God's hand literally touching this thing. But what is this thing going on? Is that a wing of a plane and this is just a headlight? It doesn't seem like it.
What the heck? Did I just record?
It doesn't seem like it.
What? Alexis, I don't think it's a plane.
Plane, but
now, obviously, they're recording through a windscreen there, so you're going to get some sort of distortion, but that's blatant. There's something sticking out there.
What the heck? Did I just record? What? Alexis, I don't think it's a plane.
Plane, but it just looks incredibly bright.
What the heck? Did I just record?
A biblically accurate angel.
What? Alexis, I don't think it's a plane.
It's a star. Use your phone and zoom in to every star you'll see. It's the
What
same
the heck
thing.
Did I just record?
I've done that. And it doesn't look like that, mate. It'll take me bloody ages to look for. I've done that. And no star. The stars that I've zoomed in, mate, don't look like that with things sticking out of it.
What?
So you're saying that every star, you see something sticking out of it. And by the way, a star wouldn't be that bright. Remember the time where it was literally default? When anybody mentioned aliens or UFOs, people were like, oh, put your tinfoil hat on, right? I find it so strange that it got to that stage. And why did it get to that stage? I'm going to show you a picture now that describes orbs from years ago. Here's a picture here. Now, in this picture, obviously, you've got Jesus here, right? You've got these images in the sky. Now, is it me, or does that look like orbs? Or a UAP of some sort? Even down to the color of this thing. And not just that. Is this depicting UAPs hiding in clouds, or UAPs that are disguising themselves as clouds? Not convinced? Look at this. Do you remember the other day that I showed you that orb? In fact, let me show you. This here?
I don't even know what it looks like.
This doesn't even make sense.
Is this, look, with the lines coming down and the lines going across, all these different shapes? Look at...
Watch. Because it's freaking, it's almost out of view. Look at this, Joe. Oh, something moved in front of it just now.
What about this? What about this? What are these? Are these the cigar-shaped UAPs that we're seeing? And what about this? So what I'm trying to say is, why were people painting these things in the sky and then all of a sudden dismissed, ridiculed, laughed at, tinfoil hat, and now we're starting to go back? Why? Because more and more people are speaking up and recording and starting to believe. All right? I just wanted to show you that because it just adds these building blocks to make you think, okay, this stuff is real. This stuff is happening. This reminds me of what makes me think of Project Bluebeam.
Oh my God, that's a
look at this beam coming down. This makes me think of Project Bluebeam.
What? Oh no, my goodness! Mira, bro.
Now it's obviously lights coming from the. It's obviously lights coming from the floor, maybe some party or something like that. But
whoa! He throw fire from the mouth, from la boca. Mira, fuego de la boca, brother. Mira. Oh my God, bro, mira.
That was in Tucson, Arizona, by the way. In a second, I'm going to show you this orb that is being touched by God. I think that's the title. But I want to go back to the old school UAPs. This video was in Orlando, Florida, on the 23rd. Okay, tweeted out by Think Tank. This is your stereotypical UAP, guys. Look at this.
Fuck yeah, it is.
Now, notice the shape there. There's a point on top of this. It looks like at that point it's got wings. It actually reminds me of a video that I saw. Where was it now?
I'm videoing this, and this is one of those.
I was like, okay, we've just gone in and out of focus, and it's still there. It's not looking like AI, CGI.
And at first, I thought it was the ghetto bird, but it's not. And it's loud. Oh my God! Here we go. Here it is.
But Symbolism.
What is that?
Look at that thing.
I'm videoing this.
It's amazing.
That everybody's talking.
Someone in comments says that doesn't look real. It bloody does. I'm sorry, but it does look real. It might not be a plane that you recognize, but it does look real, right? But anyway, I did a reverse search on that image search, and that's a plane in the game Halo. Like, you can actually do it. If I do this, if you reverse image that, right, it will pop up Halo. It's a plane in Halo, right?
Here we go.
But anyway, I saw that and it just reminded me of this other video. What am I seeing here? There's no comments. Comments turned off. Is this because it's fake? Morphing into two orbs again. I did say to you some of it might be borderline. I'm not too sure about that. It visually, totally impressive, but I'm not too sure. Now, Chaz McConnell has sent me this video, and it's doing the rounds. Now, there is a community note on this on X. It says, "This is fake. This source is a YouTube channel that produces fake videos." I've gone onto the channel, and I don't see anywhere where it says that. Now, if you're unfamiliar with these community posts, readers added, like, anyone can put their opinion on these things. It's a bit of a broken thing. If enough people decide that this is fake, then it will be added. So for a laugh, if I just put a video of me saying, "Happy New Year," if enough people said, "This isn't actually Ben, this is AI," it would be a community note on there. Like, that's all I'm thinking. I was like, so it's a little bit broken, I think. I could be wrong with that. I'm pretty sure I'm right in what I say. So anyway, so I've just gone and done a bit of my own research, gone onto their channel, can't see anywhere. Let me just try again. So we go onto the video. Let me just show you the video, right? A New Jersey UFO military jet chases mysterious drone in orb in shocking footage. Now, there's a couple of things on this. Whoa, that just shape-shifted. So a couple of things. So either the UAP is fake, and they decided to put that in before recording the plane, or the plane and the UAP are fake. What I thought was, first of all, like I say, I've gone into the description. This extraordinary footage captured over New Jersey shows a fast-moving spherical UFO orb drone being chased by a military jet. In nowhere do I see, and also, if it's CGI, when you upload a video and you've got CGI in a video, right? Terms and conditions of YouTube, you have to click a box to say this video contains CGI, right? You have to. Otherwise, you're going to get done, right? And you're going to get striked and your channel's going to be taken down. If you're aware of it, all right? So none of it says that here. So I was like, well, why this? And then my conspiracy theory head started coming on. Is it because they want to take it down? They want to tell people that it's fake because it's too close to the truth and all this sort of stuff, right? So that's one point that makes me think, could this be real? The second point is that near the beginning, now these guys aren't going to know that a military airplane is coming across. So why then did this person recording decide to look up and track nothing in the sky and then go back and then track a plane? You would have to, if you wanted to fake that, you would have to go, right, okay, well, there's a plane coming. I'm going to record nothing, and then I can put in my UAP. And then I'm going to record the plane going over. So it looks like that's what you'd have to do. Unless you just naturally just did that into the sky, and then post, you can put in the UAP and the plane. It's pretty hard to believe that you would think straight away, oh, look, there's a military plane coming. I'm going to pan and pretend that there's an orb so I can later, when I get home, and then I'm going to record this plane. I don't know. And also, it looks pretty real. When it gets to around about here, let's slow this down. It starts to morph. But ever so slightly, right there, ever so slightly. Isn't that a bit of a unnecessary detail that could be easily missed to put in? Look at that. And there's no pixelation around here either. Now, I think I've got two videos from different angles of the same thing here, right? This is from Tangled Titty on X, alleged clip of a UAP evading 2 guided missiles over Middle East, reported as being analyzed for CGI and has come back as real. Look at this. Like what? Let me just get my cursor out of the way. Sorry, let's do that again. So we've got the orb on the right here. 2 potential missiles. Is this what I'm thinking? The missile's coming up. The orb's there. The orb intercepts, does something, destroys them, and then that. But then there's a huge bang. So did the missile just turn around and then it did a 180? I've got the other angle. This seems like the other angle. The only thing I can think of is that these missiles were, I don't think you would use heat-seeking missiles, but it could backfire because it's sensing the heat from the. Look, listen, this is film talk, okay? This is Hollywood talk. But I'm thinking maybe they're traveling like this. The heat that is picked up some sort of heat this way, but it wouldn't because no, I don't. What is going on there? I don't know what's going on there. I've got to be honest, hands up. I don't know what is going on there. But there's your 2 angles, which I think are the same clips. Tell me what you think. And the reason why I'm showing you it is because it's visually impressive, but it goes back to, where these orbs have all of a sudden started hanging around like air bases and things like that, and nuclear bases. Maybe to protect us, maybe because they don't want us to have like a World War III situation. Is it? Are they protecting us? No, I know a lot of you consider aliens to be the demons and things like that and to stay away, but I don't know. if we went to another planet and we saw a planet about to destroy itself, that we knew how to intercept that and stop it from happening because we saw that planet as beautiful, or as a planet that we were once there, would we intercept? Would we try to say, hey, look, stop it. Stop doing what you're doing. I've got to show you this. This is a New Jersey drone. Close up. Look at this thing, man. Look at this thing. I know you've seen it, but I've got to show you this. Look at this.
What the fuck? Here, get out, look at it!
Look at the state of this, mate. Look at it. It's so eerie. It's so eerie.
Oh my fucking god! What the?
Like, I'm not being funny, right? I've not even thought. I'm just looking at that. That's made me think to myself. Imagine the people over New Jersey. And not just New Jersey. I keep on saying New Jersey because that's where it sort of manifested, right? That's where it's just spread from. But the whole East Coast, imagine, like, some people are probably going to be excited about it. Some people are going to be, like, nervous about it. Some people are going to be damn scared. Imagine sleeping, knowing that these anonymous drones are just flying over your neighborhood and stuff. It's so eerie. Making these weird noises going over, like you don't know what they are. Nobody knows what they are. Like, how weird is that? It's straight from a bloody horror movie. I'm surprised. Right, well, I'm not going to say it, but I'm surprised. Well, I'm not going to say it. Well, I am going to say it. I'm surprised that some people haven't, like, got a little bit more Rambo-ish on this situation. And also what I'm thinking is, since the videos that I've been showing you is over the Christmas period, right? From probably around about the 21st onwards, right? We're only now into the 28th. So in fact, probably the 23rd through the Christmas period, right? They've had a ban on drones. So since the ban on drones, like as in hobbyist drones, we've had more stuff go in the sky, more crazy stuff in the sky. If you want to see crazy, look at this. You want to see crazy? Okay. Right? 21st of the 12th. 24, look.
What?
Yeah.
See, there's another one up here. What the
Mate, you know, earlier when I spoke to you about, you know, the photographs, the paintings, right? Of, you know, paintings of Jesus and then UFOs in the background and stuff. This guy here says something which relates to what I've said earlier. Listen.
Have seen this video and you're probably thinking, what the hell is that? And I don't know, but this reminded me of something that I find really interesting. So I'm going to take you on a weird rabbit hole. But it wasn't until I saw this one that I felt pretty confident that I knew what was going on. Now I'm going to take you back in time. So this is a cave drawing in France that they think is about 10 to 15,000 years old. Now these are some cave drawings that are found all over the world, and they think that they're around 4,000 years old. What happened here? Did they just get worse at drawing or something? Some researchers are now thinking that what they were depicting was actually what's in the top left, a plasma discharge. Let's look at this. Why did these gods all over the world have the same weapon? Why are they drawing the same things? Well, on the left you have a plasma discharge, and on the right you have Sumerian god Ninurta's
wearing a watch.
Thunderbolt. Does this look familiar? And how did all those ancient cultures know what DNA looks like, know about this double helix all over the world? Oh, right. They worship the elementals.
Footage zoomed in on a drone or UAP, UFO object filmed in New Jersey, man-made or other. Now, look at this. This is from UAP source on X, by the way. I'm sorry, but if this is man-made, which it might be, that takes a lot of dedication, time, and money to go out your way to put that up in the sky to fool people. What's the purpose? To make something that can actually fly, not just hover a couple of foot made out of tin foil or aluminium, right? Go, look, I made a UFO. This thing's actually flying. Somebody man-made has created out of their own money, own time, resources, created at home. Yeah. Like proper Iron Man created a UAP with lights and put it up in New Jersey for people to see, to get what? What have they got from it? Nothing. And when I saw that, it reminded me of the Turkey UAP, right? It reminded me of that. Istanbul. Look at this, man. This is still one of the most convincing UFO footage out there. This clip doesn't give it justice because it's already zoomed in. But this is where people say you can clearly see the ETs, right? But this guy zooms in whilst I think he's on a beach of a beach, and then zooms in over the horizon at this thing. Guys, I've got more videos, so please make sure you subscribe, okay? Because I want to show you all of them. But this one, God's hand. This is, now I'm not saying it's God's hand, okay? But I've got to admit, it does look like a hand. Is this an orb starting to transform, starting to morph into something? Is it Project Bluebeam? I don't know. Look at this. This is from Conspiracy Dad.
I've seen a lot of crazy stuff looking at these conspiracy theories. But bro, this is literally a hand mixing up a star on a telescope. You can see this on a real telescope. That is a hand mixing up a star. That is a hand. That is literally a hand. That is a hand mixing up a star with it, with just rubbing.
Well, he's saying a star, but this is the same sort of thing as the orbs, right?
It's just rubbing the star. It's literally just a hand.
And look, I'm sorry, but I know the magical thing is the star, but look at this cross here. A perfect cross. Is that a result of a lens doing that? But what's going on here?
The hand rubbing the star. And you can look at this with a real telescope. This is real footage. This is just a hand mixing a star. And it's,
right there. And
this
then
is a real constellation or star they call God's hand or something. But it's literally a human hand mixing up a fucking... Bro.
That looks like fingers at the end of fingers.
I've seen a lot of crazy stuff looking at these conspiracy theories. But bro, this is literally a hand mixing up a star on a telescope. You can see this on a real telescope. That is a hand mixing up a star. That is a hand. That is literally a hand. That is a hand mixing up a star. With it just rubbing, it's just rubbing the star. It's literally just a hand rubbing the star. And you can look at this with a real telescope. This is real footage. This is just a hand mixing a star. And this is a real constellation or star they call God's hand or something. But it's literally a human hand mixing up a fucking, bro.
I'll leave you with that.
For free? Could we heat our homes, run all of our devices on free energy? Well, that's been the subject of what our next guest has been focused on for quite a while now. Not only his investigations into the disappearance of MH370, which has led him, I think, to uncover this one of the most remarkable stories of our time, the idea of etheric energy, free energy for all of us that's been kept secret. My guest is Ashton Forbes. He's an investigator. He's a physicist. And he's been on this story from the very beginning. And I want to welcome Ashton back to the show. Ashton, I think our last interview that we did here on the show has millions of views at this point. And you've got quite a few new pieces of the missing MH370 aircraft, along with aliens. We're going to talk about drones. We've got a lot of ground to cover today. So welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Clayton. Thank you for having me. Your audience is awesome. I loved getting all the feedback, and I'm so glad that this information, this science is starting to get more and more mainstream.
Absolutely. And I think, it all started with MH370, and we'll get into the free energy piece of this. But I have to ask you, given all of the news since right after the election, of course, weeks and weeks and weeks of drone activity. I've been calling them UFOs because they are unidentified. They immediately started calling them drones right out of the gate, like that was what the media was saying. I was a little skeptical of that nomenclature, but now we're hearing all sorts of reports about missing nuclear material, missing radioactive material. Why are these things flying at night? If they're drones that you can't see, they're maybe looking for radioactive material that's gone missing. Is this a giant false flag? Is something bigger happening here? Our elected leaders don't seem to have any answers at all about this. Shoot them down, don't shoot them down. Yet we spend $1 trillion a year on a defense budget, and we don't know what these are. So just let's, at a high level, I want to get your assessment of what you think these things are. And when you started seeing all of this come together, what did you make of it?
Yeah, and just like you just said, we found as part of the MH370 investigation, we looked into the surveillance capabilities, especially the satellite capabilities of the intelligence community. So we know that we've got full motion video coverage of the entire planet. This was actually admitted to in the UFO hearing just a month ago by both Michael Schellenberger and Tim Gallaudet. So we know what these drones are. Maybe the FBI doesn't know because they don't have access to that information, but the NRO, the CIA, the NSA, the NGA, these organizations know exactly what these drones are. So the question is, why are they lying to us about them? And I also think that drones has become the code word for UFOs now as well, which should make us wonder, what are these things flying around? Is there even somebody inside of some of these UFOs that we're seeing? Is that even a requirement? The theory that I kind of like the best, and also I just want to point out that Congress is apparently getting a classified briefing about these drones that are flying around as well. So if there was nothing there, why would they be getting a classified briefing about it? And
right.
some of the sightings have indicated that they are transmedium, that they might be coming out of the water. In other cases, they've been saying that they're not giving off any signals or any frequencies, which I'm not really sure what that means, but these could be some of the observables that we see in UFOs. Now, the flip side of it is there is mass hysteria going on right now. We've reached the point now where this is like, it's a self-perpetuating thing where people are now just misidentifying planes and other stuff, and they're claiming that they are, these UFOs or drones when they probably aren't. So there's a lot of mud in the water that's making it very difficult to sift through. The only way we could really get forward on an answer is if we were to get high quality, like military or intelligence grade, like infrared footage of one of these things where we could actually analyze it. And I think the likelihood of that is slim. Now, my personal theory that I like, that Clint Russell and I were talking about just a couple of days ago, was this idea that, like, what if these are some type of defense mechanism, like a mesh network, like a fence, essentially that is set up, ready to intercept some type of hypersonic weapon, either coming from outer space or coming from like a submarine off the coast or somewhere else, where seconds matter. And even the deployment time would make it less likely that you'd be able to intercept an incoming ICBM or something like that. That would actually make sense in terms of why the local governments have no idea what's going on. And it would make sense in terms of why federal government would not be able to speak about it and potentially do a classified briefing. But there's a lot of theories that are plausible out there. That just happens to be the one that I like the best at the moment.
Yeah, the other piece, and as we talked about before, is this idea of a false flag, and perhaps there's some sort of nuclear material that they're trying to warn us and scare us about, this sort of radioactive material that wound up missing from this cargo container coming into New Jersey. Other drone operators saying there's no reason for these things to be operating at night because they can't see at night unless they're using some sort of radioactive sensor technology. So, you know, it's deeply troubling. It's deeply troubling that we don't have answers. But we know, and I agree with you, that they know about this. They absolutely know. They're just people at a low pay grade that probably don't know about this.
Precisely. Yeah. And, you know, with respect to the scanning abilities, if they had like infrared or thermal, great. I think that what we're dealing with here, though, is we can rule out commercial, like low quality, cheap drones. These aren't hobby drones that, you know, they only have 20 to 30 minutes of loiter time. To kind of shift this into the UFO topic as well, one of the things that people have been saying about these is these things have been hovering there for hours. And the question that I think everybody should be asking in the UFO community with respect to flying saucers, UFOs, whatever it is if you see something hovering for hours, our UFO, our flying saucer, what is the energy source of this? How is this thing floating? If you think about a conventional drone, gas is really heavy. That's the big problem, is the weight. So if you want something that's gonna be able to stay up there for a really long time, it needs a lot of fuel in it, but that's really heavy. And so you get to a point where if you're getting over even like 30 minutes of loiter time, now you need to have a battery. It's the only efficient way to do it. But batteries are also really heavy as well. If we have the capability to have craft that can just defy gravity for a day straight, or potentially achieve these hypersonic speeds, which would use this huge amount of energy without rockets, where is that energy coming from? Logically, that energy must be coming from the environment, some other exotic fuel source that we don't currently understand at the moment.
Which is what Nikola Tesla had discovered, right? It's the idea of etheric energy. And this is a story you've been covering now extensively since your research into the disappearance of MH370. This idea that the deep state, the government, the military-industrial complex, these defense contractor companies have been reverse engineering these craft, these downed UFOs, using this technology that they're pulling from the environment, right? So can you maybe explain how and why you think that we have this technology? Nikola Tesla was right, and the government is keeping it from us?
Yeah, and to do that, I'm going to rewind back to the MH370 case for a moment. Now, a lot of what I've been doing has been strategic. When you look at something like the MH370 videos, you realize there's no way in heck they can ever admit to this. Like, this is just so far out there. And this is part of the reason why no one can really believe it to be real. It requires technology that is...
Before we go more deeply into that, why don't you just explain, if someone doesn't even know about the MH370 story, maybe you can just set the stage here and explain, and we'll show these videos of the disappearance of the craft and what you believe actually happened with these orbs that are swirling around MH370.
Yeah, the plane disappeared 10 years ago, and these videos emerged just weeks after the plane disappeared. The most powerful clue is that the person that uploaded them, which was a random no-name account with just like 100 subscribers on YouTube, said that the first video, the satellite video, was received March 12th, 2014. That's 4 days after the plane disappeared. This was before we even had a narrative of the plane going into the South Indian Ocean. Keep in mind, this plane's never been found even 10 years later now. So if somebody was hoaxing videos like this, how would they know we would never find the plane? These videos show the plane literally being surrounded by 3 orbs in a perfect triangle formation. It looks unnatural, like the way that they spin around the plane in this perfect orientation, which to me screams AI or some type of quantum computer. And then they converge on the plane. You see a flash emerge. that illuminates the surroundings in 3 dimensions, which is extremely difficult to produce with visual effects, even today. And then the plane is just gone in an instant. In 0.2 seconds, the plane is no longer there anymore. I believe that this was 6th generational warfare. This is a message to China from the United States government saying, don't mess with us. We've got technology that is light years ahead of where conventional weaponry exists today. I think they did it because of the engineers that were on board, those Freescale semiconductor engineers. People are probably familiar with the other conspiracy theory around them being patent holders. That conspiracy theory actually is not true. Those people weren't, the people in that one related to the Rothschilds were not on the plane. However, there were 20 engineers that were very important people on this plane. 8 of them were Chinese nationals. They were going to China. They worked for a U.S. company that's connected to U.S. aerospace and defense. So I think that we literally have teleportation capability, a wormhole that we can zap an object from one point on Earth to another. I don't know that it was advanced enough in 2014 that you could zap somebody to the moon or to Alpha Centauri or something like that. But that would be like the next level of taking this technology.
Where do you think, but before we move on to the etheric energy piece of this, where do you think that plane is now?
Get some footage of that.
I think that plane was disassembled at Diego Garcia. I think that they zapped the plane from the Nicobar Islands west towards the Maldives, and then it either landed and they got rid of the people, or they flew it from wherever it showed up south to Diego Garcia. It ended up getting seen by about 15 islanders on a small island north of Diego Garcia in the early morning hours. And the debris that was found, that everybody always says, well, what about the debris? The debris proves that it crashed. It doesn't actually. The debris is a very small amount of debris, and I actually think that was from MH370. The problem is that debris shows up in Africa, which is 2,000 to 3,000 miles away from the search zone. The reason why no one was looking in Africa is because it's impossible for the debris to have drifted there from the location where they say that the plane crashed, where, by the way, we found nothing. So if you believe that that debris is from MH370, then the plane did not crash in the South Indian Ocean. It's not, those are two incompatible ideas. So I think that possibly if you look at the ocean currents and map it compared to where the debris was found, Diego Garcia is the perfect location for that debris to have gotten into the water.
And any sort of updates on that, but again, before we move on to the etheric energy piece, since our last interview, are there any major sort of new revelations in the few years since we've spoken about it?
Yeah, and there are some major ones. First, I want to talk about AARO. You know all about them, the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. I submitted the case to them. Everybody gets on my back about, why do you trust the government to do all this? Well, I'm like, you've got to go through the official channels. And who knows, maybe we can trap them into admitting the truth. I think we might be able to. Now, in April, they stopped responding to me entirely. I didn't get a response back until November, last month, when I looked up the person, because I was trying to figure out if I had been scammed or something. They just ghosted me and stopped responding. And people were saying, oh, he wouldn't really talk to the AARO. So I found the guy's name, who I had, and I looked them up, and oh, they are 100% legit. Like, they've worked in the Pentagon for many years. They apparently rotated out of their position at AARO and rotated back in, which is interesting. Apparently that's how AARO operates. They're investigators. They're like military people that come in and come out. My sources tell me they do that to make sure that nothing ever gets done, because that way there's no continuity for the investigators within the AARO. Okay, side the point. I spoke to them after I was going to expose them and point out who they are and how AARO is ghosting me. And long story short, they told me they should have the capability to look into our satellite systems and to look into our drone capabilities, because all I need to prove these videos are real is that if that's really the space-based infrared system we're seeing in that satellite video, it says NROL-22 in the bottom left. That's the first launch of the space-based infrared system. Now, the space-based infrared system broke off, or they had a splinter that's called the Space Tracking and Surveillance System, which is used to be called SBIRS Low. And then what they did was they took the low Earth orbit satellites and they put them in this separate system. And that STSS system is for tracking the missiles as they are after they've been launched, as opposed to the SBIRS system, which is like once the heat signature of the rocket taking off is detected, then that gives an information to these other systems to continue tracking it. So I said, look into these systems. If you find out that's one of those systems, the videos are real. No random kid bored hoaxer knew about our spy satellite systems. We still don't know about them. And they said they should be able to look in the drone video as well. And they were kind of obfuscating about that, and they hadn't really accomplished anything yet. And then the last bit was Edward C. Lin. I said, I gave you guys the name of the guy that leaked the videos, Edward C. Lin. Anyone who looks up his case, it checks all the boxes. It's got to be this guy. The date range, the fact that his lawyer said that the classified information in question is available on the internet. I'm like, just find Edward C. Lin. Just figure out what it is that he leaked. If it's those videos, it's all over. We get full disclosure from this. Now, I'm hoping I hear back from them. They gave me assurances that MH370 will be submitted in the official AARO record. I don't know when it's going to happen, but eventually it will. And this is important because the AARO's out here saying, no, we've identified all this stuff, all these UFO cases that we get, they're all prosaic. There's a bird, a balloon, it's parallax, blah, blah. This is one they're not going to be able to debunk. And if they can't debunk this one, the UFO community is going to go crazy, because they've been debunking everything that the UFO community says is legit. And for them to not be able to debunk this one, which most of the UFO community really does not like the MH370 case, it'll be quite entertaining. Now, the other two other huge breakthroughs were we slowed down, and I'll send this video to you so you can superimpose it here, the satellite video, and found that one of the orbs passes through the smoke behind the plane. So it shows accurate fluid dynamics when it does this. Just as if there was a bunch of smoke in front of me and I ran through the smoke, and you would see like the smoke kind of come off in like a silhouette around me. It looks just like that in slow-mo. We only noticed it because we changed the color channels in the video, which allows you to see some of the more small details more clearly. And then if you look back at the original video, yes, you can see it. It's very faint, but it's there, which is a really obscure detail for somebody to add. By the way, no hoaxer has ever come forward with any evidence that they made the videos. Now, I got a message on my YouTube channel just a few weeks ago from somebody who claimed to have worked on the SBIR system, the space-based infrared system, in the late 90s when it was first being set up. I reached out to them. I said, I have to talk to you. I have to confirm your identity, blah, blah, blah. I confirmed their identity. They told me basically all the companies that they ever worked at. They gave me the whole story. They had initially had an unclassified job related to setting up the network connectivity of the SBIR system. They knew that was the SBIR system based on the fact that they were the one that was setting up these data upload and download links. Because what I've been saying too is that these satellites are beaming information from one another and then to ground-based computers. And they explained as well how they were able to increase the bandwidth, basically the data download rate or upload rate from those satellites by combining together like 8 different feeds. And I don't know much about how all that works, but ultimately this was the big takeaway, was that they said they were 100% sure what we were looking at was the SBIR system based on that. And they had also had a classified job as well, setting up satellites and their connectivity to weapon systems that they were not allowed to talk to me about. I gave that person's name to the AARO as well. Go ahead.
So confirming that video, the MH370 video, is in fact a SBIR's video.
Yep. Or maybe the STSS, since that was a breakaway, because these people, he was working on it in the late 90s and it probably started to really be deployed like in the early 2000s. So they may have made some small changes, but yes, confirming that that's a real SBIR's video. And I've had anonymous people tell me stuff like I work on those cameras on the drone stuff and say that, you know, that looks like a real drone camera. Anyone that's skeptical, watch the thermal drone video and look at it from the perspective of you being the operator, the person with the joystick controlling that camera. And you'll realize quite quickly that that's a real person controlling a camera, watching a real airplane, as hard as it is to believe.
Right.
Now, to dig
let's
into
talk
the
about
science
the etheric. The science and the etheric energy piece of this.
So Bob Grenier, back in November of last year, he is probably one of the world's leading experts at low energy nuclear reactions, which is what cold fusion rebranded into in the 90s after it got heavily discredited by the government. As a quick side note, I want to point out something that not a lot of people know. Pons and Fleischmann in 1989 made their announcement for cold fusion. There were 60 replications of their experiment, 60. The DOE created a tribunal, the Department of Energy created a tribunal, and they went to all of these sites that were reporting positive recreation results, and they debunked them, and they made them retract their papers one at a time. It's actually unbelievable how much we suppressed cold fusion, and the world has no idea about it. And this isn't to say that Pons and Fleischmann, that their method was the only way to do cold fusion, or even that they were doing it correctly. The point being, the Department of Energy did not want us looking into this. And Bob Greenyer in November, before I even met him, he did a video about the MH370 videos. And the reason why he was doing that is because he noticed that those orbs are balls of plasma consistent with cold fusion or cold plasma. It's not hot fusion. It's not the temperature of the sun. It's a much lower energy level. And he knew, because he could see the heat signature in the orb is consistent with this vortex that's being produced to create stability in this ball of plasma.
This would kind of imply that these are warmer than the environment. And for that to happen, one might expect that if they didn't have their own energy source, they must be extracting the energy from the environment. That the exotic vacuum objects will fire a thing, or it has some sort of projected field out in front of it that will cause other exotic vacuum objects to orbit around them. So there is something that goes out in front. I believe that this is the toroidal moment, the beam that goes out far faster in front of it.
To me, that's one of the hugest corroborations of the videos. How could somebody know to fake that? And the last bit is Salvatore Pais. People have to realize this guy is 100% legit. His patents are legit. He has a magnetically confined plasma fusion reaction patent that was approved under the US Navy. I've been speaking to him. If you go back and watch the interviews, he's been talking about cold plasmas. Cold plasma is the secret to achieving the energy densities required to create a wormhole. This is not science fiction. This is science fact. It's known. All the science is publicly available. It's out there. His Pais effect, that he calls the Pais effect, is literally the Schwinger limit, which is putting so much electromagnetic energy into a region of space-time that it breaks through the fabric of reality. That's the Schwinger limit, and that's also the Salvatore Pais effect. He said in my last interview just a couple of weeks ago with him that when he first saw that video, the drone video with the orbs going around it, he said, I knew what was about to happen. And I'm going, wow, you knew that there was about to be a wormhole? Because when I first watched that video, I'm going, what am I looking at here? Sal saw it and he said, they're building up non-ionized radiation when they're spinning around the plane. And he says, I knew what was going to happen. That's the Pais effect right there in that video.
Oh, man, when I saw those orbs, I saw this thing, this one orb just start exactly what it's doing now. Just start to go around this thing. And all of a sudden, it started joining another one and then another one. And I said, oh, my God, they're forming a bubble of non-ionizing radiation around this thing. There's no way. There's no way what's about to happen. I anticipated. Do you understand? I knew before that black hole happened. Let's call it a black hole.
You knew that was going to happen beforehand? Just
I knew that would happen. I knew that would happen. That's why when I said, this is it. This is the Pais effect.
So they're spinning around the plane, and then we see that the flash of that wormhole, and that's where the plane disappears.
And the reason why we're seeing the flash is because of the Schwinger effect. When you hit the Schwinger limit, real photons get pulled right out of the ether, right out of the vacuum, right out of the 0-point energy field. There's this energy all around us. And we think this happens at the edge of black holes as well. And at the edge of black holes, we're seeing this dynamic Casimir effect where the Schwinger limit's being breached. We're hitting the ceiling on our reality. And when you break through that, light comes out. And so we see that in the satellite video of the light shooting out like that. And those videos are going to prove that 0-point energy is real, this etheric energy. I like to call it the ether because that's what Tesla, Maxwell, all these legends called it. It's probably not exactly the way they described it. It's more of a super fluid medium that is all around us all the time in a fifth dimension that's like infolded at the quantum level that we don't quite see. But that energy is there. and we know experimentally it is there. This is what a lot of people don't realize. So the people that are going to say that this is pseudoscience, I already know all their arguments. First thing they're going to say is, well, 0 point energy is there, but it's not a significant amount of energy. And for those people, I would say, well, you need to go look at Richard Feynman of the Manhattan Project, Nobel Prize winner in 1965 for quantum electrodynamics. Who did he win the Nobel Prize with in 1965? Julian Schwinger, the guy of the Schwinger limit. Richard Feynman said, there's enough energy in empty space of like the size of this coffee cup to vaporize all the Earth's oceans. What that's essentially saying is at the quantum mechanical level, nothing is stopped. What that means is this 0 point energy is not a tiny little amount of 0 point energy. It's a massive amount. It's practically an unlimited amount. And just because we don't actively see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. The Lamb shift, Lamb won a Nobel Prize for the Lamb shift. Casimir effect, that Casimir effect was in 1948. Ehrenhoff-Bohm effect. These examples show that there is some field out there and that space itself is not actually an empty vacuum.
So the commercial applications, so Pais gets this patent through or alongside the U.S. Navy. Is this a secret patent? What is he saying about sort of the commercial applications? And I guess this is where we think, so the United States military has access to this, these sort of off-the-books programs using, it would seem, craft or some other vehicles. They've been able to tap in and use this that members of Congress have no idea about, or even the President of the United States has no idea about. Does that seem right?
So, boy, that's a loaded question. I would say I asked him why these patents are even allowed out there.
Yeah.
Like, why would these be allowed? The conclusion I've reached is that China and Russia know it's legit and they're working on it, and maybe they've already got it figured out as well. So once you've reached that point, why hide it anymore? You might as well have it become public. In fact, it becomes awkward if Russia or China make the announcements, but you've already had it figured out for a really long time. So the patents could be a matter of plausible deniability, so that when the science does come out, they can say, we didn't lie to you. We had all these open patents. Why we had these 5 patents here for you? You know, there they are. You know, we weren't lying about this crazy advanced technology that's out there. The presidents, I do think, have been made informed about this. This goes back to your interview you did with Tucker Carlson. In fact, by the way, Salvatore Pais has told me that if Tucker Carlson were to invite me on, or Joe Rogan, that he would come on with me, even though he's not even really allowed to do a lot of interviews, but it seems like he would just be willing to take the risk in that situation. So if either of those guys are listening, Sal has said that he wants to do that. Presidents realize the implications of this, which I want to talk to you a little bit later, are just beyond what most people can comprehend. Like the idea of there being this unlimited energy source that's out there. There are national security issues related to it, weaponization issues, doomsday technology and weapons that can be produced, the socioeconomic impact to our way of life. Like, what even is capitalism if we have no scarcity anymore? So you look at it from that perspective, and the issue is so much bigger than what I think a lot of people understand. And it's certainly much bigger than what the majority of the UFO community is expecting. The UFO community just wants little green men who want to tell us that we're not alone in the universe. To me, that was something I dealt with in the 90s. It's 2024 now. Now I'm like, how do we change our civilization? Yeah,
right.
I love when you said that. It's like, no, we're past it.
Yeah,
Right? Like,
I mean, I think we've all got that part of it now. We've figured that out. We have the craft. We know the bodies. All of that piece of it. Now I'm with you on this. Like, free energy that could transform our world. I mean, think about people who are in cold homes right now, freezing, or just even in war-torn areas, and to be able to have etheric energy, something in your own home that is pulling from the environment that heats your home, powers your devices, and and to know that so what you're saying is we have this technology, like we have access to it now, but it's being kept from us and being hidden from us.
Yeah, the defense contractors are probably the ones that are gatekeeping it the most. You could also have energy companies that are involved as well. Some of my sources have told me there's companies like in Europe, for example, that are literally pulling hydrogen, conjuring hydrogen straight out of the ether. So literally elements, not just energy as well. And Bob Grenier extensively talks about the transmutation capabilities of these plasmas as well. So we're actually talking about Star Trek replicators are in our future. Now, maybe that's 100,000 years down the road, but the base form of it, the plasma that enables all of it, that is, we're staring at it. It's like the discovery of fire. It's always been there. We just haven't known where to look for it. To the point of heating things, these can actually also cool things as well, because you have to look at it that the universe, we're in an equilibrium of energy. Okay. So what we think of as absolute zero is not the bottom. There's more to go. The only question is how much of that energy is there? And that's the big argument, the vacuum catastrophe. Is there really this huge amount of energy under there? But if there is, and we can tap into it, then we're actually reducing the temperature. If we pull energy out of a local region, what I would expect to happen is that in that region, it's going to get colder. When you look at the MH370 drone video, the zap is black. It's cold. And that's the reason is this is a negative energy, negative entropy type event. Now, that's very taboo. A lot of physicists will probably come at me for that. But the key being that we don't feel that energy below zero because we're in the equilibrium. Just like if I'm in my bathtub and it feels like the water is cooling down, it's because my body temperature is equalizing with the water temperature. That's the same thing that is essential or an analogy to what's happening in our universe out there. The next thing people will say is, well, okay, there's this energy out there. Maybe it's a big amount of energy, but there's no way to extract it. And that just makes me laugh. There was actually people like back in the 70s that would say that there's no way to use solar power and get energy out of it. There's no way to use wind power and get energy out of it because you'd be breaking the laws of thermodynamics. And right away, people realize like, no, you're not breaking the laws of thermodynamics. You're adding an extra input, the wind, the sun. So you can get a device, a windmill or a solar panel that can produce more energy out than what's locally what you're injecting into it. This is the same concept as 0 point energy. 0 point energy and free energy. Free energy is a bit of a misnomer, but it's a great name. It doesn't mean that we're producing something directly from nothing. It means that we're tapping in to this 0 point energy, this quantum mechanical energy that's out there. And Robert Forward in 1984 with his paper showed that you could use this pressure of the Casimir effect, where they take two plates, put them together very close, and they just come together naturally, automatically just come together. And what's happening is the area between these plates is pushing out the 0 point energy. Certain wavelengths of 0 point energy can't fit between the plates. And what happens? Then you have more pressure on the outside than you have on the inside, comes together. It's a reverse or a negative pressure that you're feeling. And he showed that from this action that you could charge a battery. And doing that basically proves that we can tap in to the 0 point energy. Of course, it's a crude example, but it's a thought experiment that shows people, yes, it can be tapped into.
Well, that was what I was going to ask. You know, what are the kind of technologies or materials that you would be required to use right now to kind of make 0 point energy viable to the masses? Like you can do this maybe in a laboratory, or maybe these defense contractors have access to this already and they're using it at scale, but we don't know about it. So what sort of materials and technologies would we need to kind of put all this together to make it viable, maybe commercially?
Yeah, it's another great question. And I want to answer all the questions that everybody's thinking. So, okay, in terms of what types of devices I think are the easiest ways to extract 0 point energy that I've looked into right now, first one's magnetic motor. So magnetic motors can produce over unity because a magnetic motor, once you realize that there's this energy that's out there and it's electromagnetic in nature, then what a magnetic motor is doing is it's churning up the ether. It's churning up the ether. Imagine you have some kind of water mill or whatever, and it's pulling the water up from there, and you're trying to pull as much of that energy as you're kind of churning it up. You're trying to grab as much of that energy as you can grab. That's essentially what a magnetic motor is doing. And the way that it achieves the grabbing of the energy is through resonance. So a lot of this has to do with frequency and resonance because this 0 point energy is constantly jiggling back and forth. And so you want to try to tap into some type of resonant frequency that can interact with that 0-point energy very strongly. So a magnetic motor can do it. And a lot of these guys that were building magnetic motors, free energy devices, I think that some of them were working for sure. And that was stuff back in like the 70s, 80s. Joseph Newman, John Searle, John Hutchinson, Bandini, Tom Bearden, all these guys, they all get discredited because everybody didn't realize that there's this energy we can tap into. To me, that's an archaic way of doing it at this point, and probably relatively inefficient. It's still magic because having a magnetic motor would be pretty cool in your house. We don't use that much energy, but the cooler ways to do it, the ways that we're doing it now, microchips. There's a patent called Casimir Cavities by Garrett Model and Bernard Haish. Bernard Haish was a Lockheed Martin engineer. Model is professor emeritus at University of Colorado. And the way that they do it is they basically say, let's look at it from the atomic level. So if I've got my atom and I've got this electron orbital, just kind of like a Earth spinning around the sun, I'm going to squeeze it and pull a little bit of energy out of it by changing that orbital. And then I'm going to have it go into an empty cavity, just an empty region of space, and it's going to gain back that energy from the 0-point energy field. Basically like being on a trampoline. So I jump on my trampoline, I jump high in the air, trampoline resets, I hit the trampoline again, and I bounce up again. Same concept, except for from the quantum mechanical level, we're doing this at the very tiniest scales. So what they do is they're basically just saying, what would it take to pull that off? Oh, I need a semiconductor, and then I need an insulator, and then another semiconductor. And what this allows is for this quantum tunneling effect to occur, where you have a barrier and the energy level normally wouldn't be able to get over the barrier, and it would just hit like this. But quantum mechanics says it just quantum tunnels right through the barrier. And that's the kind of device that they've built. And then they have a cavity and they just repeat that. So you could take a very simple idea like that, where we're now looking at what's the most fundamental way to engineer this. And you put it onto a tiny microchip, smaller than the tip of my nail here. And you make it extremely small. And the reason why you do this is that Casimir effect I was just explaining to you, it gets exponentially more powerful the smaller you get, the closer the plates get to one another. In fact, the Casimir effect is so powerful that when people are making microchips, they have to be careful about any two metal surfaces coming close to one another, because they'll just stick together, and they're so small, there's no way to pull them back apart again. So this would be, to me, that's the coolest way. Like, I literally going to steal that patent when it expires in 2 years, because can you imagine a microchip where you just put it in your phone and the phone never stops, permanent battery? Like, incredible. So those are the first two ways. And actually, go ahead if you want to give comment on that one, because it's
almost pictures like the little monkey, with the tambourine, like back and forth. Like that's kind of like, that's how I'm picturing it in my brain, my monkey brain. Well, another thing just comes to mind as you're talking about these patents and this application of it is like, where does Elon Musk fit into this? I mean, here's a guy with SpaceX, and he's been kind of really quiet on this whole drone thing. And it's like, I know he's got these like government contracts, and so my brain immediately wonders, like, he's got to be aware of this. Why is he involved in this somehow and have some sort of secret, involvement here? I mean, with SpaceX and everything else he's been developing with satellites and Tesla driving cars and self-driving cars and everything else.
I mean, he's got to. Tesla is his company, and Tesla is the guy that figured out alternating current, the power we still use today. He was the one saying that radiant energy, free energy, was real before quantum mechanics was even a thing. And so you're like, and he's got a rocket company. He's talking about wanting to make us interstellar species. And I'm sitting here going, well, here's all the answers. How can he not know? How can he not know? He's got to. And he's like, I think the biggest defense contractor. He's got all these top secret contracts for shooting spy satellites in outer space now. SpaceX is what's shooting all these spy satellites into orbit. I don't think he's legally allowed to comment on the MH370 satellite video because of that. It's so weird that he's never made any comments about it. And the drone stuff, like you said, he's not really commenting on. It does make you wonder, and I have it on pretty good authority. I mean, I've literally seen pictures of Black Project engineers, like, with politicians, where you're like, okay, these people know, because the Black Project engineers that I'm seeing in the pictures know about this stuff. So so what you realize is there is this elite group of people, usually rich people, sometimes politicians, anyone connected to these engineers that have access to this level of technology. Now, how much do they know? How much are they allowed to push? That's a different story. My guess is that Elon's got NDAs that prevent him from speaking on a lot of this stuff that's out there. But even if it is real, it doesn't hurt him, because the moment it becomes accepted mainstream, his company has the money and the resources to immediately start working on it. So even if he's working on obsolete rocket technology, he could, the moment that it's accepted that, oh no, we have this electrogravitic capability, he can immediately just shift gears and it's not going to miss a beat, you know?
Right.
So the last one, and this is the one that affects propulsion, is plasma. Plasma. This is the thing that, man, even when we were talking a year ago, I really had no idea what that plasma was really going to be the missing link in the whole UFO topic. It's possible that plasma itself is some sort of fundamental discovery of the universe, just like fire, where all of our rockets, explosion, combustion, and everything's based on fire. But now you look at plasma, and plasma has these natural, incredible properties, including the biggest one is that it can hold charge density higher than any material that we know of today. Now, metamaterials at some point in the future might be able to improve and achieve this. But if you were to pack the amount of energy that we can get into a plasma into any circuitry that we have out there, it would melt the wires. And that's the main limitation on that. It was Ken Shoulders in the late 1980s who realized that these plasmas, he called them exotic vacuum objects, because he believed they were cohering energy from the vacuum, from the ether. He realized they have this self-organizing property where it will become naturally a sphere. And there's a funny comment that Sal was telling me in my interview where he said, I forget the guy's name, hope somebody out there probably know and put it in the comments, but that they were talking about this hot fusion and these tokamak reactors that we have everywhere. And he was kind of throwing shade at it, saying, I've never seen a star in the shape of a donut before. And you kind of laugh and you go, yeah, in outer space, all the stars are plasma, but they're always spherical. Why are we building all our reactors in the shape of donuts? And we do that because that's a way to focus the electromagnetic field so that the electromagnetic field will be like in the center of the donut. But is that what the shape that the plasma will ultimately form? No, I think it's going to form a sphere. And then he realized not only is it cohering energy from the vacuum, the reason why he thought it was doing that was because their longevity. It would stay even though you had stopped applying energy to it. It didn't dissipate. It would stay there. And he realized, he explains this. He has a book called like The Path to EVOs. And in this book, he says that in 1980, he read a paper by a guy named Bergstrom. The paper is from 1973. And in that paper, he realized that the ether is actually real. So what is he saying there? He's saying the same thing that I was just telling you guys, is that he realized in 1980, there is this energy that's out there. And if space isn't actually empty and space itself is a medium, then we can manipulate the medium. And the plasma is doing that. The plasma is actually changing the properties of the medium itself. So when people talk to you about metamaterials, the reason why they say you need metamaterials is because they don't think we can modify space-time. They don't think we can change the refractive index of space-time, the permittivity of space-time. If you change the permittivity of a material, you change the speed of light through the material. Just like when people show the image of a refractive index where you have like a cup of water and they put a stick in there and you can see it kind of bend. This is why we think we need metamaterials to produce UFOs and anti-gravity. But if you can actually do that to space-time itself, where now you create a bubble in space-time, now you've got a situation where you can have anti-gravity, you can have a huge amount of charge density where this is basically becomes an infinite battery. And you have the charge density required, the charge density that can be achieved in this bubble of plasma energy is so high that you're now starting to approach what Sal Pais would say is that the Pais effect, the Schwinger limit that's out there. So last thing I'm going to say, and this is going to let you jump in, is that people need to say the name Hal Puthoff way, way, way more often. He should have won a Nobel Prize. I have it on extremely good authority that he's willing to go to his grave knowing that he'll never win the Nobel Prize, even though he deserves it, because he's never going to violate his NDAs. He's never going to expose the defense contractors that he's worked for. He knows about all this stuff.
So-called empty space isn't really empty at all. It's actually full of energy. So instead of being like kind of a quiet, empty lake, it's more like the froth at the base of a waterfall or something. And this energy is basically electromagnetic in nature. And the energy density is quite high. In fact, it's so high that when it was first discovered mathematically, it was thought to be some kind of artifact of the mathematics. But then as time went on, there were even Nobel Prize winning experiments that showed that this energy in so-called empty space was really there.
Ken Shoulder's partner was Hal Puthoff. They both worked at SRI, Stanford Research Institute. They were partners when they were working on this exotic vacuum object technology in the late 80s. Their financier was a guy named Bill Church of Church's Chicken, the CEO, if you can believe it. And so this is when Hal Puthoff started writing all his scientific papers about zero-point energy at the exact same time. So Hal Puthoff realized there was an ether. He started writing his papers on zero-point energy. Zero-point energy explains gravity as a pressure force. And in the early 90s, from Lynn McTaggart's book called The Field, she explains that the Pentagon it was really cold fusion is what they were producing. They called it condensed charge research. They gave it this kind of code name. And the Pentagon ranked it as number 3 highest priorities for research. And then the next year, they upgraded that to number 2. So this was all based on this plasma technology. And in 1992, a scientist named Jack Nachamkin for the Air Force wrote a scientific paper called Force-Free Time Harmonic Plasmoids. So if you hear the word plasmoids, you hear the word EVOs, exotic vacuum objects, ball lightning, these are all synonyms for the exact same thing. And Jack Nachamkin basically said that we can, using a vortex, you can stabilize the ball of plasma. And what will happen is it'll create a non-radiating barrier, a bubble around it by manipulating the pointing vector. So, and I won't go too much into this science, but if you make your electric and magnetic fields parallel when normally they should be perpendicular like this, then you change your pointing vector to 0. And in that situation, now the energy is not propagating in any specific vector direction. And so instead, what do you create? A bubble. And this bubble can then be stabilized. And from there, now you've got a stable bubble that energy is not radiating out of it. And you can potentially use that to extract energy. It can float around freely. Oh, and then I do have to say one last thing as well. So we've now tied Ken Shoulders, Hal Puthoff to the government, to this research into these EVOs. And these can become drones. These can actually become drones because Hal Puthoff's patent, he only has really one significant patent that's out there called communication system. And it is a field-free, meaning no electromagnetic field communication system. He calls it quantum communication system, which is just a bullshit cover. It's a gravity communication system. And he says literally in the patent, in the abstract, you can communicate through plasma with this. So you start to realize, oh, we can create a plasma bubble. We can put a little device inside of there. And now we can communicate with it using Hal Puthoff's patent.
What about time travel? Does this confirm does this confirm time travel exists?
So if you change the permittivity of space, you manipulate the amount of zero-point energy in a region. In the case of the plasma, it's reducing the permittivity. It's pushing out the zero-point energy, just the way the Casimir effect was doing it. So it's a different engineering aspect. If you're doing that, if you're modifying the speed of light, you are technically modifying time. You're creating a time dilation effect as well. This is part of the reason why I would say you don't want to have somebody inside these things. I would not want to be inside of these things. It would be extremely disorienting to go inside of some type of craft, fly for an hour, and you come out and it's a year later. And you're like, wait, what? Time dilation is real. So,
Wow.
Which means that time travel is real, but it's not the same kind of time travel that we're seeing in science fiction, except for maybe in the case of Interstellar, which I think they kind of got it right, which would mean that what you can do is you can change your dial so that time either moves faster or slower for you. The real question then is, what is negative time? There is a concept of negative time in physics that mathematically works out, but it's not like you're going to go back to 1950 and go meet your grandparents. I would argue, and this is highly speculative, of course, that instead what you're doing is you're reversing your local state. So you would maybe reverse your age. Like maybe I would go back a year if I could apply negative time. Otherwise, the more conventional uses would be that you can go to the future, but you could never really go to the past. So you could slow your rate of time down. Everything else is speeding up around you. And then you would be in the future. That is possible. And if that's possible, this explains why we might have moved to stuff like plasma drones, drone type technology where no one's in there, because it's the spam in the can. It's a liability to have a person inside one of these crafts where you have to keep them alive, where you have to have some sort of atmosphere inside the craft, because it has to be perfectly sealed as well. You can't have openings on these crafts for this. This is also going to be a really, I think, interesting anecdote, but our spy planes, I don't think people realize how hypersonics work. They use plasma sheaths in front of this, in front of these hypersonic crafts. And this is what reduces the drag so that the craft doesn't rip apart from the friction of our atmosphere. They use a plasma sheath that they produce. And you think about that, we had that in the 60s. It was Paul Sis who basically explained this technology to me. And once I heard him explain it, he's a Black Project engineer, I went, wow, we can actually just turn the plasma into a drone. We don't need the plane. We don't need the person inside of it. Those are the liability. Just turn the plasma sheath itself into a hypersonic drone that can ignore inertia, gravity, etc. So that's what I think that we pretty much figured out there. And then I don't know what's going to happen with the time travel aspect of it. I'm just interested to learn more.
For sure. I would love to do an entire deep dive about time travel because it's one of the most fascinating topics in my life. I've loved it since childhood. I mean, so many amazing revelations here. And I would encourage our audience to want to dive more deeply into MH370, follow Ashton's work. Also go back and watch our previous interview where we spent really over an hour deep diving that particular part of the story. So many pieces of this with etheric energy that I'm excited over the next year to see where this develops and really to have you back on the show to dive more deeply into it. So my guest, Ashton Forbes, who just confirmed time travel is real. But it's not what you think. Time travel is real. Get your flux capacitor out. Ashton, great to see you as always. Thank you.
Kofi. Follow me.